All right, Jay Campbell, welcome back to the Family Alpha podcast. How you doing today?
I'm awesome, guys. I'm fantastic, super spectacular. I'm so honored, privileged, and humbled to be here. I mean, the last one was insane, and just very, very excited. Thank you guys for having me back, for sure.
Yeah, we had a fantastic discussion on your book, The TOT Bible, Testosterone Optimization Therapy. We had a lot of great feedback on that, and you had hopefully you weren't just flattering us, but you gave a lot of good comments about how that was the best podcast you had ever been on. And we're hoping to take that a step further here as we talk fasting today, and particularly as it pertains to your book, The Metabolic Blowtorch Diet. So I wanted to ask you, Jay, before we get into kind of the specifics about fasting, a little bit about your background in terms of your fitness journey. And I mean, obviously you can see from the picture here, this is Jay. So nice and ripped there. And how old are you, Jay? You 48?
I'm 47. I'm really just turned 47 in February. So I'm in my 48th year.
Excellent. And looking great, by the way, man. So I wanted to ask you as we kick things off here, you're obviously a guy, you're in phenomenal shape in your 40s. And so just want to give our listeners a little bit of background from your fitness history. Have you always been a fit guy? Did you have a kind of transformational moment from where you went from like fat to ripped, or what's your background there?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So, full disclosure, I've never been a fat dude. I'm pretty blessed genetically. I was a college athlete, and I had a little bit of a cup of coffee overseas playing basketball right out of school. So I've always been in really good shape and very focused on maintaining fitness, but not like at the level that I am now, for sure. As I told you guys on our last podcast, and how I got into testosterone optimization therapy. Testosterone was really the key for me to take my physique to like a world-class level. I've maintained that through very diligent diet, very diligent training. Obviously I'm very regimented. You guys know I'm a type A personality, but that doesn't mean that you have to be a type A personality clearly to have an amazing physique. And again, for me, it's always about, my wife will always, downgrade me, but it's not just about the aesthetics and it's the internal. Right? Because if I'm not good internally, who cares what I look externally?
Yeah. Now, have you always followed a fasting protocol? How long have you been on that? Is that something that's more of a recent change in your life, or has that been going on for quite a while?
No, great question. No, definitely not always following a fasting protocol. I've been very involved in nutrition since way before testosterone optimization therapy. My background in college, I have a molecular bio minor, and right when the internet came on, I was on the miscellaneous fitness weights news group going way back. And, there were a lot of amazing, brilliant minds that were just kind of like me, just coming up, getting their start there. And so a lot of us kind of correlated and communicated with each other. A lot of us at that time had handles. You didn't have Jay Campbell, Lyle McDonald, Jim Brown, all these names. It was just kind of handles. And I was really, really big at 24 and 25 and 26 into ketogenic dieting. I helped Lyle McDonald. A lot of people that will be listening to this podcast or watching know who Lyle McDonald is. He wrote the first book on ketogenic dieting. He's now officially insane, and this bothers a lot of people and his communication with people and stuff, but he's a brilliant guy. And, I still owe a lot to Lyle and stuff like that from our connection and stuff. But I'm very knowledgeable about nutrition. Okay. And subsequently since then, I've stayed in the game. I tried every diet. I've tried, if it fits your macros, calorie cycling, carb cycling, targeted ketogenic diets, cyclical ketogenic diets. About 7 years ago, I found out about intermittent fasting. And, like most guys, I found out through Martin Burkans. Martin Burkans, is the father of lean gains. You guys are familiar with lean gains. Martin and I are not really friends, but I hope he watches this podcast. He's going to learn something today. And that's not a slam at Martin, but Martin is a trendsetter, a change maker, and a guy who really brought this to the forefront. So we all owe a debt of gratitude to him, but he's wrong in his research. And I'm going to explain why that is today about fasting. But so I've been using my own version of the metabolic blowtorch diet for about 7 years. A lot of private clients that I work with and consult, many of them who are on Twitter now will probably chime in here at the end if we get some questions. Who have been kind of tweaking it along with me and stuff. But it took me a good 6 or 7 years to take that lean gains approach, combined with the research, combined with, experiential learning, to come up with the metabolic blowtorch diet. And we've been using the full-blown version of the metabolic blowtorch diet on ourselves since 2015. But I am an absolute hardcore fasting adherent. I believe in fasting beyond anything else. And again, this is going to be a deep, deep podcast. We're going to talk a lot about fasting. I want to get rid of the disinformation, guys. You know, Craig and Hunter, as you guys know, I mean, we see so many people who are so loyal to their form of diet, and their diet is better than this diet. It's all nonsense, because there's very simple things to understand. We'll talk about them in this podcast, but and I'll just kind of briefly mention them now. But when you understand your insulin sensitivity, okay, how your body responds to carbohydrates, and we're all genetically unique. You know, there's 3 different body types, but we're really random combinations and different permutations of all 3 of those body types. There's nobody who's like perfectly uniform. But when you understand your insulin sensitivity, and you understand that through blood work, you know, your H1ABC levels and your fasting glucose or glucose tolerance test, and you can also do it, you know, without having that esoteric blood work, by just kind of understanding when you eat a carbohydrate, how your body feels, like how your insulin responds. You can eat any type of diet relative to your goals, understanding your insulin sensitivity. So I want it to be made known here today that there's many ways to skin a cat. You know, you can eat low carb, ketogenic, if it fits your macros, calorie cycling, carb cycling, all of those things, and have great success, but you have to understand your insulin sensitivity first. So I kind of wanted to put that out there today before we jump in head first over fasting, because you're going to get a lot of people who are going to write in and say, ketogenic dieting is best, bro. I've lost all this weight. You should see all the pant sizes I've dropped. You know, there's, again, many ways to skin a cat, and you can be successful in numerous diets.
You know, you talked about that in the beginning of metabolic blowtorch diet. You covered almost exactly that. And that was one of the more interesting things, is because I've been one of those guys. I'm like, all right, let's do the keto thing. All right, let's do the only meat thing. You know, it's always that next thing when you dial it in. And you think about, you know, there's nothing difficult about intermittent fasting. You literally, it's like growing a beard. You've got to work to not have a beard. To have a beard, you've got to just let it grow. To do intermittent fasting, you just got to not eat. I mean, that's it, you know, and then when you get to the time to eat, you eat the proper thing depending on that day. But
exactly,
for everybody listening, you know, this is one of those situations where everything is in the book. That could be the answer to every single question we're going to ask. Because as I was going through the book, so I read it once, and then before we did this, I wanted to hop back in to see, all right, what did I not get? You know, what did I not understand? And everything was answered. So instead of just saying, I read the book, you know, Jay, I'm sure will enlighten us with the answers to the questions, but just grab the book. I mean, it's all in there, and you can take notes. You know, I've got the TOT right behind me over that shoulder, and I'm writing in the margins. You know, there's just so much that you think of while you're reading it. So get the damn thing so you can take the notes. You can keep it all right in front of you. And like I said, we're going to cover all these questions, but it all starts with, you know, looking at the source. Go to the source of the book and then just go from there.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys saying that. And like I said, the first podcast we did together, I really did mean it. I don't BS. I do a lot of podcasts. I've done hundreds of podcasts since the first book launched, and you guys asked the right questions. You guys held my feet to the fire a couple of times too. I really like, you guys have really good chemistry on air, and, you know, just doing this, you guys are really good at this, but that's my biggest pet peeve, right? Like, I had a podcast with a guy this morning, a really, really smart guy, and we were talking about learning from reading versus learning from audiobooks and the differentiation. It's like a golf, right? Like, so many of these younger millennial guys, they don't read anything. That's all like, you know, YouTube or listening to audio in traffic, and they don't retain anything. And they ask me questions that are just so repetitive that, like, I know you didn't read it. You know, they tell you they read the book. Hey man, I love you. Thank you. I read your books, blah, blah, blah. And then they ask the stupidest, most basic question. Now, I don't have judgment for them, but it's like, dude, if you're reading the book, and I don't care how you read it, but if you're reading the book and you actually know what you're reading, or at least retain 20%, there's no way you're going to ask me that question. So I'm glad that you guys say that, because again, every question is answered in complete detail in my books. And again, you know, Jim helped me write both of these books. You know, so the reality is like, always, you're right. Default to the book. And guys, again, I'll say it right now. Anybody who's a listener or a watcher of your guys' podcasts or broadcasts, I'm always faithful to people who support me and my work, which I give back to you guys. Obviously, service to others, just email me. It's jay@trtrevolution.com, and I will happily send you a PDF of any of my books. You know, I just ask that you quid pro quo it. If you find value when you read it, leave me a review on Amazon so more people like you can find it.
Absolutely, Jay. So I got into intermittent fasting, I guess about 2012, and I've been
Nice.
following that ever since. And
Nice.
from what I've read in your book, I'll be honest, I've gotten about 3/4 of the way through it. You ascribe, or at least prescribe, to a little bit longer fasting at times than what I typically do. But one thing that I've really noticed about fasting that helps me stay on point and disciplined is that it removes the opportunity to make a bad decision. So when my coworkers are going out to lunch at 11 o'clock and I know they're going to be going somewhere that is not going to be in compliance with my goals, with my dietary protocols, I will just say no, because I'm not going to eat at that time anyway. Is that something that you found to help people be successful?
100%. Awesome question. Great point. That's why fasting is the ultimate choice, in my opinion. And I think clearly a lot of people are in agreement with that now, because again, you guys, there's none of this horrific food and meal prep, this monotonous, constantly have to like count your calories out, plan your meals, eat every 3 or 4 hours. I mean, you're right. I mean, it ultimately gives you a lot of freedom to enjoy life, because at the end of the day too, let's face it, we have to enjoy life. We're here in this physical meat suit in this current incarnation. And we want to, one of my mentors is always talking about like embrace people's vacation, celebrate people's vacation, right? Celebrating the vacation is eating good food. I mean, you can't just like go through life completely Spartan-esque and never eating good food, never indulging. So when you fast, like you just said, Craig, I mean, you definitely give yourself a lot of like technically like cheat times, because the fasting, and we're going to talk about this, the fasting primes your body metabolically and biochemically to get away with eating, indulgent foods, versus when you're not doing that, you can't get away with that. And we'll talk about that in this podcast.
Now, one of the main things that I had going into that, and this will kind of streamline into the Q&A portion, I guess, is there was an argument, and I don't know if it was Martin, I don't know where it came from, but that the only thing you got from fasting was that you were constricting your calories to one window. And that's the only benefit that comes from intermittent fasting. And going through the book, I mean, there's several other reasons behind it. It's not just, all right, I'm only going to get, 800 in this window, so I'm going to get full off that. There's more to it than that. So to those who would say, well, the only reason that you should fast is because you can limit the intake hour, what other benefits are there to the intermittent fasting as a whole?
Perfect question. It's, again, you guys are so good at this. So there's a lot of biochemical things that happen with fasting, and I'll just kind of, I don't have the book in front of me, so I'm just kind of going from memory. So if somebody fact checks me or looks in the book and says, "Oh, that's not what you wrote in the book," then, I apologize. But the reality of fasting is this. Yes, from a thermodynamical equation, it's still calories in versus calories out. If you narrow down your feeding windows in a 24-hour day window, you're not going to be able to eat as much. So there's always that. But the truth is, and this is where we get really detailed in our book and where we really, really help people. And as you guys know, I mean, none of my books don't have 5-star ratings on Amazon. That's not because I pay people to write reviews. It's because we put out factual based, authentic content that people use and get real results. So I'm positive. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your genetics. I don't care what your body type. I don't care what your background. If you follow the rules and it's not a strict game plan, but if you follow the principles of the metabolic blowtorch diet, it's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle, as we all know. That was like the big flaw of my book. I should have said lifestyle instead of diet. But the reality is you're going to lose body fat. But most importantly, and more importantly than losing body fat, is the fact that you're going to improve your health and extend your life. Okay, that's what's important for everybody. So what happens when you fast regularly? Okay. And this is Martin Burkhan's, this is, the Warrior Diet, Uri Offmeyer, which is also a great book. Any type of fasting, you definitely prime your body metabolically to use specific hormonal pathways to burn calories at an accelerated rate. And what I mean by that, and I'm going to get into the differentiation of why like 14 to 16 hour windows are not as good as 20 hours and longer. We'll get into it in a second. But when you regularly fast, a lot of things happen. As you guys know, PD, Dennis Mangan has written awesome books on fasting. And, Dennis is a close personal friend of mine. I hope he's watching this right now. And, him and I have done many podcasts together. You guys should have him on your show if you haven't had him on yet. He's brilliant. But the reality is you get into the autophagy or the autophagy process, which is essentially like cellularly clearing out waste. So when your body has long periods of not eating, it becomes very efficient at getting rid of, and again, it's through autophagy, cellular waste. So the longer that you extend your fast windows, and this is the differentiation from the metabolic blowtorch diet and the other intermittent fasting diets out there. And most of those intermittent fasting diets out there basically recommend 16-hour fast windows. Okay. There's other ones. Dr. Jason Fung is a brilliant guy in Canada. He's written the Obesity Code. He's also written an amazing book on fasting, which I source and cite in my book a lot. He knows me. We are friends now. I've actually, the power of Twitter, we've connected through Twitter. He's very familiar with the book. But the reality is that the longer you extend the fast windows, the more you prime these metabolic biochemical cascades in the human body to do the great things that they do. And I don't want to get super esoteric because guys are watching this and ladies are hopefully are watching this too to understand why they should fast. But ghrelin, which is GHRELIN, and glucagon and AMP kinase, these three chemical pathways in the body are massively primed / pumped the longer you extend your fast windows. Now, why are those important? Again, I don't want to go super esoteric. They're important because the higher you pump those or prime those chemicals as you extend the fast windows, the more fight or flight chemicals are released in the human body. And here's the brilliance of the fight or flight chemicals. The fight or flight chemicals, and again, I'm not going to name them. They're like norepinephrine, epinephrine. There's some other ones, but they're called catecholamines. The catecholamines, when they're released, are attacking visceral fat stores. And the visceral fat stores are where your stubborn body fat is. So guys who fast 16 hours a day, but always stay at like a certain level, right? The body's so super dynamic and always ever regulating. It's very homeostatic. Will stay at a certain body fat level and then stay there, okay? When you all of a sudden start extending your fast windows to 18 to 20 and 20 plus, and 20 plus is when the magic really happens, dude, all that stubborn body fat, it's gone. And again, this happens with everyone. Don't come at me with my genetics, say that I have a fat set point. No, you are going to lose body fat when you extend the fast window beyond 20 hours. And again, the book, as you guys know, explains it in very clear fashion. It talks about what hormones happen. It talks about all these other things. Now, one thing to add to that, and again, it's in the book, we extend that or exacerbate that through supplementation, right? We talk about metformin. We talk about thyroid optimization, both medicinal thyroid optimization, which is porcine thyroid. And then there's also glandular supplements that Jim Brown is a big proponent of. You can find them on Amazon. And nicotine gum, okay? Because nicotine gum does a lot of things. It's a thermogenic, especially in the absence of 0 calories, very suppressed insulin signal. So essentially, we're giving you hacks, legal hacks, when you're fasting, extended windows that if you take while you're in your extended windows of fasting will actually increase BMR, which is basic metabolic rate, which again makes you more efficient at calorie burning, which ultimately is going to increase fat loss. Because remember, ultimately, to keep this simplistic, when you're fasting, your body becomes efficient at running on its own body fat as its primary fuel source, which is essentially glycerol or free fatty acids. Now, you don't want to go too long so that it becomes ketogenic, but for someone like me, and I don't want to go crazy here, but for somebody like me who fasts 24 to 34 hours, 24 to 30 hours, usually 3 to 4 days a week, depending on how lean I want to be, I can get really close to ketogenic, right? Like today I'm fasting. I'm fasting right now. I'm probably 18, 19 hours into my fast. I will not eat tonight, okay? And I will eat tomorrow morning at probably 6:30, 7 a.m., depending on when I want to eat. I usually wake up at 5:40 and then I do my morning ritual and all my stuff and stuff. But tomorrow I'll probably eat around 6:30 in the morning. So that'll be like 32 hours or 33 hours of fasting. If I did a ketone test, I would probably be purple. I'd be really, really close to being in ketosis. But again, I'm extremely fast adapted. I'm efficient at doing this. I've been doing this for 2.5 years now. So I get really close to ketosis. Now, again, I don't want to go into a ketosis discussion. Ketosis is great. Ketogenic dieting for medicinal reasons, for epilepsy, for a bunch of forms of cancer are great. You know, Dominic D'Agostino is the guru when it comes to understanding ketogenic dieting. You know, he's been on the Joe Rogan show multiple times. He's a great guy. We know of each other. I've never talked to him in person. I'd love to have him come on my podcast, but he's brilliant. He's the guy. He's in all of Tim Ferriss's books. He talks about ketogenic dieting. And again, ketogenic dieting is great. And that's not a discussion for today. But the issue with ketogenic dieting is that you retard insulin metabolism when you ketogenic diet for life. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with that if you need to do it for a specific reason. If you're morbidly obese and you want to lose a lot of body fat, ketogenic dieting is great. Okay. But the issue becomes the difference between fasting and ketogenic dieting, especially in my diet, or, you know, the metabolic blowtorch lifestyle, is that you want to always to have muscle. And again, let me take one step back. The key to longevity is muscle. You know, Alexander always talks about that, right? Like gravity, physicality. The more muscle one has, the more upright they're going to walk. Again, it's physics. You're resistant to gravity and falling over and wilting and being pulled over and stuff like that. But that's what resists disease. So when you're doing a ketogenic diet and you're not getting any carbohydrates ever, so you don't have muscle glycogen to run as a primary fuel substrate for your body, you're not going to be able to build muscle as efficiently as you could if you did. So you want to, in fasting, especially the metabolic blowtorch diet, is we're taking the best attributes of fat loss and fat burning in ketogenic dieting and combining it with what we know about human physiology and performance from carbohydrate, not loading, but carbohydrate usage to build muscle, and most importantly, to enhance training, right? Because again, you can't build muscle as you age unless you train effectively. So that's where the big confusion is. And I'll just stay right there right now. And this is awesome, by the way. You guys got me going.
Good. Let it flow.
The reality is, and this is where intermittent fasting fails. A lot of the intermittent fasting people recommend that people train fasted. Okay. And this is a huge no-no. And you talk to any guy at a high level on physiology and kinetics and biomechanics and obviously muscle dynamics and kinesiology and all these different things, scientists, sports scientists who study this will tell you that in the lack or in the deprivation of muscle glycogen, a muscle, and there's obviously a lot of different muscle fiber types, 3 types realistically, there's like 6 or 7 subtypes, but you can't develop optimal muscle firepower. Okay. So the ATP, the lactic acid, all this, the Krebs cycle, all the stuff that causes the human body to lift in the absence of no muscle glycogen. And you have no muscle glycogen when you have no carbohydrates. Now, granted, there are ketone guys out there, and Dominic is brilliant in talking about this. They have these new things called ketone salts. The public doesn't have access to ketone salts. Okay. They're too expensive. They're too exotic right now. Those would be the equalizer when they come into the marketplace. Somebody then could argue with me and say, you're wrong, Jay. You can use a ketone salt as an energy fuel source, and it actually will power you through kind of like a carbohydrate was or carbohydrate does now, but we're not there yet. Okay. So
Jay, what about cardio?
You what?
What about cardio? So you're talking about lifting. Is this the same for cardio, or is cardio?
No, it's a good question. It's a good question. Let me get to cardio in a second. So it's a great question. It's a perfect follow-up to that. You can do cardio at a non-interval style. So you're not relying on those, different muscle intensities. You're more steady state. So you can rely on just pure fat, your ketones to fuel you. So cardio is fine. But the issue becomes if you fasted for 20 hours or 24 hours and you go to lift and you've got no muscle glycogen whatsoever, your workout sucks. Nobody is going to come at me and tell me that they have maximum muscle glycogen and firepower, force production from lifting when they have low glycogen. It's just not possible. Now, I know there's going to be guys that are watching this right now and say, you're full of shit, bro. I train hard, but I'm ketogenic and blah, blah, blah. And I know that there's people coming at me, but I'm telling you, the studies are out there. The research is proven you're not going to have an optimal workout over time when you're low on glycogen. And bigger issue is that you're priming yourself for fucking injury. And not only injury, but catastrophic, because in the absence of muscle glycogen and water, there's very low osmotic pressure. You've got nothing in there to fuel the energy for the muscle to fire. That's when you have catastrophic injuries. That's when you destroy and rupture a tendon. That's when you blow an ankle or an Achilles. So again, there's also hydration issues too with ketogenic diets. A lot of people are dehydrated. A lot of people will come at me and say, that's not true, Jay. If they drank 4 gallons of water a day in ketosis, they'd have plenty of osmotic pressure and blah, blah, blah. No, you still need muscle glycogen to train. So the whole point of all of that long discussion, and this is gold, and I'm going to get to cardio in 2 seconds, is my diet is like a hack, or lifestyle is a hack to maintain the optimal fat burning of ketogenic diets and ketogenesis itself, while at the same time building muscle as we age. Now, again, this diet, the metabolic blowtorch diet, is not a muscle gaining diet. You can't do a diet that is for fat loss and expect to build muscle. Too many guys think that they can lose fat and build muscle at the same time. Bullshit. Not possible. Only way a human being can build muscle, even the super elite genetic freaks, is through a surplus of calories. Okay. So you're going to gain a little fat and you're going to gain muscle when you want to build muscle. There's no way around it. I don't give a shit unless you're some sort of a mutant and you've never done steroids and you're on massive doses of super physiologic shit. And in the beginning, you could show me that you had a net muscle gain versus a fat loss. Sure. But those are outliers. The average dude who wants to build muscle today has to gain fat and gain muscle at the same time. So stop coming at smart people like me, like Jim, and saying, hey, bro, I want to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time. Can I do that with a metabolic blowtorch diet? No, because you're not eating enough to gain muscle. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't retain muscle, which is the key, right? If you're fat, the goal is always to retain muscle while you lose body fat at the same time, because muscle is the ultimate equalizer metabolically. It improves muscle protein synthesis and basal metabolic rate while at rest. So while we're all three sitting here, guys, because we have muscle on our body, we're more efficient at burning calories at rest.
Man, I'm glad we got you going, Jay. That was a lot of great information. And one of the things I appreciate you going through is how fasting plays into metabolism. Because that was one of the questions I had. I mean, you have the title of the book, right? The Metabolic Blowtorch Diet. How does fasting play into that? And I appreciate you going through that. Now, one thing you did allude to earlier, you said this works for everybody. You said man, woman, any age, doesn't matter genetics, this is going to work for you. I wanted to ask you, though, when it comes to men and women, obviously our biology is a little bit different, a lot different in some ways in terms of hormonal profiles and whatnot. Is there anything that women need to be doing differently when following a fasting protocol because of that, or is the protocol essentially the same?
So that is a great question. So when we wrote the book, we believed, and obviously we're entitled to change because we got so many more people now on the metabolic blowtorch diet. But at the beginning, when we first launched the book, I only had like 12 women that I could use as my sample population, people that I'd worked with over time, and then people that just were willing to try it out as a guinea pig. So my data then was different than my data now. Obviously now the diet is huge. It's worldwide. I've got literally thousands of men and women around the world on the diet. Because, and it gets in the book, from an epigenetic standpoint, women definitely should fast in shorter windows than men. And again, it's epigenetics, it's evolutionary. Women have always been the nurturer, the provider. They're not the provider, but they're there, maternally to provide and protect the nest, and the food comes into the nest. And so they're along with the feeding the children and feeding the newborns and feeding the young are eating at the same time, whereas the man was quote unquote the hunter-gatherer, so he could go longer time periods. So clearly digestive systems in humans have evolved over time to mimic that. So normally men can go 18 to 20 hours after their fast adaptation phase, and we'll talk about that in a second, easily after 3 to 5 days and longer. And women will struggle to go 16 hours. Even some women struggle to go 12 hours. But again, publishing that book now 9 months ago, and having all these women around the world reach out to me, I've got women that fast just as long. I've got women that fast 30 to 34 hours and they absolutely love it. So it just really just comes down to the person. It really does. I mean, I still do believe that women are more prone to wanting food in shorter feeding windows. Again, and a lot of that is emotional. A lot of women are emotional-based eaters, and they've got that conditioning through their whole life. And so to decondition that conditioning is harder. But I mean, honestly, I found that some women, once they adapt, and we'll talk about fast adaptation here in a second, but once they adapt, they can go just as long as dudes.
You had said something earlier about the sustainability being a lifestyle, not a diet. So I was talking to it was actually my dad, and my aunt was there as well. And I was talking to them about not eating dinner. I was like, I'm skipping dinner today. I was like, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to just eat because there is food here. And they were going off about how this is going to shut down your metabolism. You're going to go into starvation mode. And I'm like, where did you hear this? Like, why do you believe this? And I think in the book, it outright says we'd be extinct if that was a real thing. But before that, this being a lifestyle, this is something that will carry you on, that you've been doing it for 2.5 years and you've been able to maintain a high standard of physicality. People get so caught up on the number on the scale as opposed to the performance of their body and the composition of their body that they're shortchanging themselves. I lost 50 pounds. That's great. I only lost 20, but I'm fucking jacked and I can do all the things I want to do, and I can lift and I can run and I can, achieve what I want to achieve. That it's not about what's on the scale, so to a degree, so much as what you're able to do. And with this diet, we need to find a way. And I guess the question with this would be, how do you start to like plant those seeds of like, let's start breaking the norm and the routine of you have to eat breakfast, you've got to eat lunch, you've got to eat dinner, or starvation mode is going to happen?
Dude, again, amazing question. Everyone has to go through a fast adaptation period. So when you choose to fast, I definitely always tell people this: do not tell anyone in your immediate circle or your social network or your family that you're doing this, because you're right. They are going to literally be like, oh my God, because people are clueless about fasting. I mean, I talk about this in a lot of different podcasts I've done, but like, think of the aphorism, food for thought. Where do you think that comes from? So the reality is that if we go back centuries and even longer than that, thousands of years, we know the great spiritual gurus would go into the wilderness, the caves, the mountains or whatever, and go without food, right? To connect with spirit, to go with like all the other things. Now, again, my guess, a lot of this that would happen is two things happened. And I don't want to lose track of your question. I'm going to get back to your question in 1 second, but you connect with BDNF, and we're going to talk about BDNF later in this podcast, but BDNF is brain-derived neurotropic factor, and it's this amazing chemical cascade in the brain that literally makes you feel euphoric. And it creates the spirit mode, the God mode, the connection to what is, like being at one with nature. It's amazing. We'll talk about that later, because like I live for BDNF production. And hey, oh, by the way, my BDNF production is probably starting to spike right now because I'm about 19 hours, which is right where the math says that it starts happening. But to answer your question, don't tell anybody that you're fasting, okay? The expectation, and again, you guys know this is in the book, is that it takes 5 to 8 days for your body as a man and a woman, for the most part, to adapt to fasting. Now, what we have found, when I say we, me and Jim, and then obviously all the people we work with, is that the people who rebel the worst or struggle the most with fasting in the adaptation phase have a massively infected gut biome. Okay. Their gut microbiota is full of God knows what: candida, yeast, microbiome germs, who knows, viruses. I mean, it's just nasty. The gut biome, if you looked at that shit at a super low molecular level, you're like, whoa, there's some really gnarly stuff going on in there. So those people struggle because their gut is saying, feed me the poisons that you've been feeding me your whole life. Okay. But the good news is everybody's gut microbiome will be cleansed if you have willpower and if you have the stick-to-itiveness to go through it. Now, in some cases, I've seen some women, I see this mostly in women before men, who will take up to 10 days and longer to kill that nasty shit that's in their gut so that they stop having hunger pangs. They stop having, some people will just quit because literally, dude, like they can't function, because that's how nasty that stuff in there. So the hack for that is metformin. Now, I've talked about this in many podcasts. As you guys know, it's in the TOT Bible. I have a whole chapter on metformin and agents of change. Metformin is the ultimate metabolic purification drug or medication, because literally it's cleansing the gut biome. That's how it works. So if you start fasting and you start taking a low dose, again, go low, go slow, of metformin. And if you're really sensitive, you should be taking the XR version with extended release, which is enterically coated. So it's less stress on your stomach and your stomach acids and your digestive stuff. That is like the hack. That's going to quicken or, purify or cleanse your gut biome fastest. So most men and women can get by with, a woman can do a 250 milligrams and a man at 500 milligrams AM and PM. Again, at fasting or during the fast. And that's going to help you get over any kind of nasty infections or, shit that's hanging out in your gut biome a lot faster than it would be if you just try to fast by itself. Okay. But again, it's all mental willpower. Once you get to be fast adapted, that shit goes away. There's no hunger pangs. I mean, you know this, Craig. By the way, Hunter, do you fast?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, so you guys know.
It was a 23-hour fast, then I ate with the family before coming here.
God love you, man. So
that's a great point, though, Jay. I want to bring up is that people think that they are hungry when they go 3 or 4 hours without eating. That is not the same thing as a hunger pain. I mean, there is a big difference. People don't even really understand today what it feels like to actually be hungry.
It's BS. It's right. It's conditioning. It's BS. And let's go back. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's just go back to 60 years ago when there wasn't microwaves, there wasn't instantaneous food. There wasn't Circle K's and U-Totems and 7-Elevens on every goddamn corner. People didn't even eat but twice a day, right? Like if you were on an agrarian farm or, the type of life that most people were, is rural agricultural type existence. You were lucky if you ate a breakfast in the morning and then you had food at night. There wasn't instant food. So all of this evolution to modern day society today, and again, isn't it funny how it's always correlating back to modernized living, is causing the infections of our gut biome, the overconsumption of food, the overeating, the increased frequency, the eating when it's socially acceptable or emotionally responsive, or I get a dopamine hit from social media and I'm sad, and all of a sudden I reach for the first poison. I mean, that's where we're at. And people have totally overconsume everything. There's no question. The human body does not need food beyond a certain level of amino acids to fuel the brain, to obviously allow for, kinesiology and all of your muscles to fire. And honestly, and I haven't gone this far yet. The longest I've gone is 72 hours with zero food. I mean, I drink water and I have caffeine, and we'll talk about that, like what breaks the fast and what doesn't. And a lot of people are really clueless about what constitutes true fasting and what doesn't. But the bottom line is anyone can do this. It is mental willpower initially, but once you get over the desire to eat, like you said, Craig, this cultural conditioning that you should eat every 3 or 4 hours. And again, the supplement companies are really big in this. There's a lot of fit bros and fit gals who think that they have to eat every 3 to 4 hours because of the bullshit in the muscle comics, the muscle mags, the shit they read online, T Nation, all this
nonsense. You get catabolic if you don't drink whey protein every 3 hours.
You're straight, bro.
The gains, the gun.
Gotta get them gains. Yeah, dude, it's amazing. But let's just say there right now. So all the people that watch this, and we're gonna get a ton of people that are gonna come on Twitter because this is a next level podcast again for sure. You guys got me on fire, and I'm just delivering right now, and I appreciate it. I have the research in the metabolic blowtorch diet. Okay, I dug deep to pull this up. Nobody loses muscle protein, true active skeletal muscle mass, until 82 hours of fasting. And here's the thing. That person in this test were all super level Olympic track and field sprinters with an average BMI. I don't remember the BMI, but the average body composition was below 6% body fat. So unless you're freaking Dorian Yates, okay, or one of those other mutants walking around, you aren't going to lose muscle. You go a week without eating and you're 20%, 15, 18% body fat, you're not going to lose any muscle. It's bullshit. It's complete abject nonsense. It's conditioning. It's brainwash. It's, again, like you guys said, the muscle comics. It's psychological. I mean, it's McDonald's. It's Starbucks. It's all of this consumerism brainwash that we have to eat, that we have to have instant gratification. It's BS.
Yeah. So, Jay, you mentioned one of the more controversial nuances when it comes to fasting, and that's what constitutes breaking a fast. So some people will say it's the consumption of calories. Some would say anything that spikes your blood sugar a little bit. So what would you say?
Good question. Great question. Excellent question. So my answer changes based on the person's body fat level. If you are like me or like you guys and we're in condition and we're fast adapted, you can chew gum that has, glycerol or sucrose or one of these replacement sugars or whatever in it. You can drink water that has the Mio, which I drink with caffeine in it, even though there's a tiny insulin release from whatever's in there. Because again, it's artificial chemicals. Initially, I would tell you that you're breaking the fast. Other than water and black coffee, anything you take, you're breaking the fast. But it's all relative to your levels of body fat. If you're a fat person and you want to make fasting work the most efficient way, your ass should fast with water and black coffee until you get to a body fat level that you feel comfortable at to maintain. It's that simple, because this will slightly break the fast. Is it like making a huge difference? No, because again, from a thermodynamics level and an energy level of like the caloric value, there's almost no caloric value. But the chemical, as you said, Craig, very, very well and succinctly, can cause a minor insulin release, which technically will shut you down from a fasting standpoint. Here's where people really fuck up though. And this is literally like retardation. And again, the community, the fitness community, the bro world fosters this mentality, this groupthink nonsense. You can't take BCAAs before you fast. I mean, before you train and say, well, bro, I'm sparing my muscle protein because I'm taking branched chain amino acids. And oh, by the way, I'm staying in my fast. No, you're not, you dumbass. That's a protein molecule. That's 4 calories. 20 grams of BCAAs is 80 calories. Dumbass, you're not fasting anymore. All these people, and I won't mention any names, even though I want to, say that you could take your BCAAs, bro, before you train and you'll stay in your fast. No, you're not. Same thing with fish oil capsules. Bro, I pound my fish oil capsules in the morning and I'm taking those and that's why I keep in fat. No, you're not, dumbass. That's essential fatty acids. That's 9 calories per gram of fish oil. If you just pounded 4 fish oil caps or 5, fuck, you just took 50 or 60 calories. So you're not fasting. So it's like I always tell people, and you guys know this is in the book, but the hack on this stuff is, but bro, what am I going to do? I got to get my fish oil caps. What do I do? You take it when you break your fast. You take it at night when you eat. You take your curcumin, your turmeric, which you should be taking, especially if you have joint problems or stiffness or, soft tissue injuries, with your fat when you eat at night. You don't take it to break your fast. I mean, because this does over time cumulatively affect the fat burning process. It retards it. It slows it down. You're not going to be as efficient as you would if you were purely fasting. So all I've done today is I've chewed gum, not nicotine gum. I need to get some, by the way, and drank water. Okay. I haven't had any food since I think it was 9:30 last night, and I ate a bowl of cereal. And by the way, we're going to get to that because I want you guys to ask me that question. But you guys, when I eat whatever the fuck I want. I mean, I'm not like pounding chocolate chip cookies and eating, Hostess cream pies and drinking Mountain Dew, but like that's the whole beauty of this in this biochemical cascade that you position in your body. The next day after a long fast, your body is primed to eat. Your body needs to restore its muscle glycogen. It needs to increase its caloric intake because you've been in a deficit. So think of it like this. In the day that you fast and that long, hopefully 20 hours as a dude, that's what I recommend, always 20 hours. In that time, you prime, again, all these biochemical cascades and metabolic pathways to burn fat at a super efficient rate, to have your body burn its stored body fat as its fuel. The next day, you want your body to be primed to gyrate. So to vary the equation by having a surplus of food, especially carbohydrates, keep them clean for the most part, depending on your body fat level, because then that upregulates your metabolism. Because think about it, your metabolism was the day before was like, holy shit, I'm slowing stuff down, but I'm increasing certain biochemical cascade signal pathways, which burn stored body fat intensely. But then the next day you're giving it like a surplus of calories, more carbohydrates, more muscle glycogen. And the body's like, well, what the fuck's going on? I'm confused. It upregulates its metabolism to handle in the excess calories. So you're constantly keeping your body in a state of confusion. And when you're keeping your body in a state of confusion, guess what? You never have homeostasis. You have constant change. And so your body adapts, and your body will constantly increase its basal metabolic rate as it learns to stair step from, oh my God, super low calories, conserve, ample calories, burn more. And so that's why my diet is better. And I hate saying my diet, I stole it from other people. I mean, alternative fasting has been around for 60 years. I just put it out there, stepping on the shoulders of giants. So the reality is now people know this and they can adopt this to their lifestyle. Guys, I literally, and again, I always encourage people, I know probably 20% less, 15% of the people that have written reviews on the metabolic blowtorch diet, but go read the reviews on the metabolic blowtorch diet. There are women on there, morbidly obese women, never trained, detrained. They adopted the lifestyle and they've literally been blown away. This diet is universal in effect. You cannot fail on this diet because I am hacking human metabolic rate. That's literally what we're doing in this diet. We're hacking it. We're literally saying diets are prone to fail because over long-term studies and just long-term research and experience, the lower your calorie intake, the slower your metabolism becomes, right? Your body is very conservatory and it just conserves. So this diet hacks that because you never are in a long-term deficit. Every other day you're varying. So you're basically hacking your body's metabolic rate so that it builds muscle or it maintains muscle. I shouldn't say builds muscle. For like very untrained, detrained people, they can build a little muscle. But for guys like me and you, we're going to maintain our muscle and get shredded. And literally get shredded. But again, it's built into the system. The longer you extend your fast, the more shredded you'll get. If you're fine, Craig, right now at 16 hours a day and you've been doing it for 2 years, you don't need to do shit. Stay at 16 hours. But if you want to play around and be like, fuck, let's see what I can do. Jay's, talking a pretty good game here. Let's see what happens. Dude, push yourself to 20 hours and do it for 1 month. And you are literally going to shit yourself. You're going to be like, how can 4 hours a day extra fasting, when I've been doing this for 2 years, change my body so much? Because that is when the catecholamine release happens. It's between 17 and 20 hours. You go 20 to 24 and then boom. But 17 to 20 is when the catecholamines attack the stubborn fat and burn the visceral fat, which is again around your belly button, around your love handles, in your upper back, in your lower butt, glute ham tie-in. That's where it attacks that. And it's so fast. And this is where, I'm telling you, again, you go read the reviews, but so many guys who've been intermittent fasting for literally close to a decade change it to this and they're fucking mind blown. And then the second thing that they see, that the value where it really changes is now they eat on their training days. And they don't have like the just substandard training sessions. Because most guys who fast and they've been doing it a long time will always tell you that, I really hate training on lean gains because I just don't have energy. My workouts fucking suck. I don't get like full pumps. I never get a pump. Well, of course you don't get a pump. You got no muscle glycogen. How are you going to get a pump?
You're talking about the reviews. So Craig and I run the Fraternity of Excellence, and inside there's a guy named Tex. He was an obese individual, and this is more for the people who think intermittent fasting is a young man's game. He's 56 years old. He is 56. He was obese. He lost some weight, and he was just overweight. We did a campaign last December, and he used the metabolic blowtorch diet. He got it from you, and he absolutely killed it. And it was, I think, 2 weeks ago, he shared a photo, and he's like, the muscles are popping, the vascularity, and he's 56 years old. He is absolutely killing it. So shout out to Tex.
Did you guys see today? Yeah, Tex is, by the way, an awesome dude. And a funny story, I got confused. I block people on Twitter all the time because I don't want negativity. And Tex was like a guy that I blocked because I thought he was somebody else. It happens, right? You got people with handles and you can't keep them together. And so I blocked him, and he sent me a really nice email. He's like, bro, I follow your diet, and fucking unblock me, right? And I was like, why would I block this guy? He sent me this awesome email. And so anyway, I looked into it, and he knows, we talk now and stuff. He sends me emails. He's a fucking cool dude as fuck. And, but I was like, dude, I've done this like 3 or 4 times. I blocked somebody on Twitter who had a similar handle because they're an asshole, and it was the wrong person. So anyway, I apologize. But yeah, dude, there was a guy today, and he's obviously in my network, Dr. Merrill Matchke. He's literally like one of the top urologists in the country. And he started the metabolic blowtorch diet in October of last year, and he's literally lowered his body fat 3.5%. Right. And he's already a pretty good shape dude, but like he put it on, he put all his blood work. He showed his last measurement, visceral fat, everything. But yeah, I'm not BSing when I say this. There is nothing more effective than this diet. And again, because it doesn't require super prep, it doesn't require calorie counting, it doesn't require scaling your food and all this other bullshit. There's nothing better than this diet.
Now, Jay, if you want to adapt this diet for muscle gaining, is it just a matter of eating more calories? You still do a 20-hour fasting window, 4-hour feeding window, and just make sure you're eating more in that feeding time period?
You always ask the best question. So we have a diet coming that's going to be called the anabolic blowtorch, and it's not done. I'm going to have a version for people that are extreme and are okay with gray market. Do this, and gain muscle and minimize fat accrual. Because remember, again, I can't hack the gene code. You still are going to gain some fat when you eat excess calories. Now, to answer your question, if you're a newbie and you've never trained and you've never been on testosterone or anything, you could definitely gain, and you have the right genetics. Let me say that. You have like a mesomorphic, ectomorphic combination. You're not endomorph. you could definitely argue with me and prove me wrong that you could gain some muscle initially as a newbie, and that's through neurological response patterning and the drugs, or, because you're starting testosterone or something like that, and just genetics. And you probably can show that you gained muscle and you had a deficit of fat, again, for a newbie with the right genetics. But for an average person, there's just no way. But the anabolic blowtorch diet will definitely create a response that will probably do like 95% muscle and maybe 3 to 5% fat gain. So for somebody who's already like us and they want to say like, motherfucker, I want to put on 10 pounds of muscle and I want to do it the fastest, most efficient way possible and prevent my health, that's what the anabolic blowtorch diet is going to do. But to answer your question, like if you're already good with who you are and you're maintaining and you like what you are and your current body composition is good, I say like this, and again, this is what I do, 14 to 16 hours fast, 2 or 3 days a week. Enjoy your fucking life, train like an animal. Because again, even for me, right? Like right now, I'm in the summer. I'm going to the AMMG medical conference next week. I'm speaking, lecturing, talking to people, being, on video. We're making a documentary, as you guys know, which we're going to come on. We're going to do another podcast to talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be world caliber, next level shit. I got so much to tell you guys about that, but we'll do another podcast. But I'm dieting right now. I'm doing cardio twice a day. I'll do another set of cardio tonight. We haven't talked about this, but we're going to get into supplements. I want to just mention it right now. And you guys saw my post I put on the weekend. It got shared like a couple hundred times, but literally I know what the number one fat stack now in the thermogenic stack in the world is. Albuterol is a drug. Clearly, if you have asthma and you have an inhaler, then you can get an easy prescription. You can go to Mexico and you can buy it over the counter. There's research chemical companies that sell albuterol. But dude, albuterol is the number one thermogenic in the world. I got to give credit to Brett Osborne, Dr. Brett Osborne, my original business partner, still close friends, brilliant neurological surgeon, wrote the book, Get Serious. Everybody watching this podcast should read Get Serious. It's an amazing book. But he was the guy that tuned me on to albuterol like 5 years ago. He was like, bro, here, just I'll write you a script for an inhaler before you do cardio. Take 3 or 4 puffs of the inhaler and you'll be blown away. Because albuterol, and it's all written in the metabolic blowtorch diet, but albuterol has this amazing partitioning effect where it goes after the B2 receptors, which again, not to get esoteric, but that's the stubborn body fat. And so it works it upregulates the B2 receptors. So it increases blood flow there, which increases fat loss to that area. The issue with albuterol is it downregulates very quickly its effectiveness. So there are hacks around that. You can take something else, but I just say, look, like everything in life, take albuterol for 2 weeks while it's effective and then take it off and stop taking it for 2 weeks. So for guys who have a lot of stubborn body fat and they're already down to, let's say 10, 9%, 11, 12%, they want to look good. They're going on a beach vacation, whatever. They're doing a photo shoot for something. Doesn't matter. That is the drug that you take in combination with metformin, in combination with the glandular thyroid supplement. And then if you want to, add on to it, you chew nicotine gum during your fasts, or you can take the supplement that we manufacture and sell, which is EMF, which, obviously improves energy focus and stuff like that. There's really no thermogenic effect of our EMF, and that's not really our fault. We just didn't design it to have a thermogenic effect, but albuterol is amazing. There are places online. I won't mention them right now, but you can find it. Just do your due diligence. It comes in a liquid dropper. You take like half a dropper before you do cardio, and it is fucking intense. The heat that goes to the areas that you have your stored body fat, it melts off you. Now, there's very little risk. Again, it says, you guys know, it's all written about in the book. We're very, very about health. We're not about sacrificing health to take supplements or drugs that are risky. I mean, I've been using it now for like 5 or 6 years, pretty hardcore when I'm trying to get lean, and I have no issues whatsoever. I'm not going to get into how it works and how it's mediated and stuff. Again, all the side effects are in both the TOT Bible and the metabolic blowtorch diet about albuterol, but that is literally a next level ergogen / medication, drug, whatever you want to call it, to lose stubborn body fat. There's nothing more efficient than that. Nothing.
So you touched on, guys that are on T and they're doing incorporating intermittent fasting. So does fasting have an effect on testosterone levels?
Good question. It does transiently. Ultimately, when you suppress your insulin, which is what fasting does, right? Now, remember, let's go back. Let's look at this from a health perspective. any good physician, any optimization doctor, which there are many that follow all of us now on Twitter, and we're kind of like a growing fraternity of excellence on Twitter, they will tell you that how people die is through systemic inflammation, right? Over time, eating like shit, not exercising, gaining body fat, increasing aromatase enzymes, which leads to estrogen dominance, causing corroded arteries, causing systemic inflammation. That's what leads to death. So suppressing one's insulin signal through diet mediation, through supplemental mediation like metformin, through thyroid optimization, through glandular, extracts or drugs like porcine thyroid, which is Armois or Nature-Throid, which anybody can get. You can go to, by the way, anti-aging systems. I think it's anti-agingsystems.com or it's anti-aging-systems.com. They sell all of this stuff. It's offshore. You can get anything you want. You don't need a medical prescription. That's how you keep disease at bay. Okay. So when you suppress insulin this low and you're compressing the insulin signal that much, all the other things that are mediated, again, not getting into a deep esoteric discussion, but mediated through the pathways of insulin being higher. Because remember, insulin is catabolic, meaning it increases fat loss, increases cortisol, and it's also anabolic, which means it increases muscle formation and improves anabolic processes that lead to it. So in the absence of higher insulin or middle grade insulin, yes, testosterone is suppressed somewhat because testosterone needs higher insulin levels naturally to be at its full expression. However, it's so minuscule when someone becomes fast adapted that it's not a risk. Okay. So someone can't come at me or you guys and say, well, that's bullshit, man, because you're enhanced, bro. You're on TRT. And so you have, positive, nitrogen retention or anabolism from that. And so fasting doesn't affect you like it's me. It's not true. Okay. Once someone's fast adapted, the transient suppression of testosterone is so nominal that it's not worth worrying about that over all of the, health extension benefits that fasting gives you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Jay, I actually had found some research that suggested that losing body fat can have a more sustained impact on testosterone. So is that true? And is there a good link there?
100% true. Like I always say this to anybody that I consult with, and I learned this from great doctors, and I don't remember which one right now that taught me that, but the number one thing that anyone can do today in society to improve health beyond all else is to reduce body fat and improve muscle. So obviously it's body composition change. If you lower your body fat, okay, your health automatically improves. Inflammation is reduced, vascular occlusion, all the other things that happen when you're fat. Again, when you're fat, you are literally creating a cascade environment in your body that is detrimental to pretty much every life cycle, to every biological process. You're creating issues. So, and the more fat you are, the more morbidly obese you are, the more at risk you are, the more you have systemic inflammation. So just by choosing to reduce body fat, remember what I told you guys on the last podcast, the easiest way, the first step, if you're like hopeless and you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, I'm on 40% body fat, what do I do? The first step is to stop eating carbohydrates after 6 o'clock. You cut off carbohydrates at 6 o'clock, no more carbs. If you don't know what the fuck carbs are or protein or fat or any of that stuff, you go on Google, you go on YouTube and you watch videos of doctors that educate you on nutrition. You buy, the great book, Deep Nutrition, that Alexander recommends, which is a great book. I read it a long time ago. You find out these basic things. You understand what a calorie is. You understand what protein molecule is, a carbohydrate, a fat molecule. You have to know this shit. Again, it's being proactive. If you don't know it, learn it. It's not hard. It's not like you shouldn't be afraid of like, oh my God, I don't understand that. I don't have any idea what Jay's saying. And you guys know this, right? Like both of my books are written so that anyone can understand it. I mean, literally, as long as you went to school at 6th to 7th grade level, you can understand it. It's not that esoteric. We outline the biochemical stuff, the endocrinology stuff. We put the doctor alert, the nerd alert. We put those things there. So if you don't want to read it, don't read it. It's not that important. It's important to a clinician or to dorks like us who want to know the science, but to learn the practice and just to put it to work so that it's working for you in your life, it's very simple.
So you had mentioned BDNF. Before we get into that, though, you talked about, your body being primed to eat, after you go through, let's say, a 20-hour fast. So I had a 23-hour fast, and the first thing I ate was a tomato. And that was the greatest tomato I've ever had.
Insane, right?
So people are so used to having this carnival in their tongues because they've got all these artificial sweeteners. They become desensitized to good flavor, to where if you give them a tomato, they're like, this is bullshit. And like, I ate it, and I'm like, this is amazing. So we talk a lot about, immersing in the moment and, just really getting everything out of life and just learning to appreciate the little things. And that's what life is really about. When you stop being a glutton as fuck and you just, put off the food and then you have that tomato or an apple or something so simple. It's
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's real. So I kind of wanted to segue that into, you were talking about BDNF and, kind of hitting that euphoria.
So let's go back, because I want to add something to you guys. Both of you guys try this. Instead of a tomato, and that's a great one, that's like right there, take a sun-dried tomato and eat like a handful of sun-dried tomatoes. You know how if Costco sells them in the bag, you can just take them right out and eat them. Take those, and dude, that will literally create a high because of the lycopene in the sun-dried tomatoes. The brain at 23, 24 hours is like massive BDNF. Oh my God, dude.
I was so happy. I'm like, yes, this is life.
Seriously, like a tomato is good, but try sun-dried tomatoes. Like literally go to Costco, buy that bag that they sell them in. I can't remember what they're called, the manufacturer, and just grab a handful of those and eat those. And dude, that's fucking like ecstasy. Yeah. I mean, literally, but it's instantaneously. Like you literally feel the lycopene expand and the absorption in your bloodstream, and you're just like, oh my God.
Our first podcast, I had 2 pages of notes. Right now, I've got a few, but sun-dried tomatoes. I've definitely got that written down.
Sun-dried tomatoes are so full of lycopene. I could never figure it out. Like when I was younger and I wasn't fasting, there were times where I'd eat sun-dried tomatoes and I'd just all of a sudden like ponder my life. But I found out through smarter people than me that it's the lycopene, and the lycopene absorption it's a very, very powerful antioxidant. And so it's definitely increasing it's probably a dopaminergic signaling in the brain, but it just, oh my God, it's amazing. But anyway, back to that. Yes, dude. Yes. Everything is improved. Again, through autophagy, cellular processes are improved, enhanced. You're cleansing your body of all the horrific gunk that you eat from the shit that's in boxed food, right? I mean, that's what's happening. You're literally cleansing your body. So your body becomes more sensitive. It becomes more receptive. I mean, it's like you're also, you're upregulating and downregulating your receptors. So that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up. And that's also in the book. I have a couple of studies. I didn't go deep enough on this because I just didn't feel like it was relevant, maybe a follow-up book, but there is an anabolic effect to fasting. Because again, back to the whole biochemical cascade, when body gets into conservation mode and you're low calories, and then all of a sudden the next day it has ample, the body is more prone to generate muscle protein. Because again, sorry, I'm getting a call. I got to decline it. But that's what happens. So there is a little bit of an anabolic effect. Again, it's not ultimately going to lead to muscle mass accrual. Maybe an anabolic blowtorch diet will take advantage of this study and we'll like tweak some stuff and add some gray market supplements. But yeah, dude, there's nothing like fasting to improve BDNF. And so brain-derived neurotropic factor is a chemical that's formed in the brain at 17. That's where the studies indicate at 17 to 18 hours fasting. I have probably massive amounts of BDNF right now, and you guys are firing me up. So it's probably helping me more. But you feel euphoric. I mean, I'm literally not going to lie to you. If I stopped this podcast and I went outside right now and I walked in nature, and I have a forest behind my house, which I'm very blessed to have. Although I have some homeless people that are living down there now. It's kind of weird. The other night they were banging on shit. My wife's like, what is going on? But I can walk out into the forest and I can put my feet in the grass. And you guys know I'm very big on grounding and earthing, and I have that in the book. And I literally feel connected to the earth. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys this one story, and Jim knows this. And I actually told Richard today off air about this, because I feel like people know me now, and they think I'm fucking nuts. I mean, I am nuts, but like I might as well tell you guys this. So the first time I fasted over 50 hours, it was 56 hours. So and this is how I'll give you guys the whole 411. You guys are gonna be mind blown. I shut it down at like 7:30 on a Friday night, and then I would go until Monday morning, right? So that's literally close to 60 hours. So on Sunday night, this is back in November, I think, the TOT Bible was still being written, I would go into my man cave in my content studio and type and type and type. At about 50 hours, I remember looking at my thing because I took notes. I would always take notes when I was going long, fast because I wanted to, track. I had this insane feeling of like, I need to get up and I need to go outside and just walk around and just like embrace the wonder and awe of what I'm feeling right now. So I got up, stopped typing. I usually have headphones on. I'm listening to binaural beats, right? Yeah. Put those down, got up, walked outside, and I'm in a building on the ground floor. So I got to usually go through the hallway and get outside to go and walk around the block and go outside. And I think it's about 5:30, it's in November. So we're already daylight savings time's changed. So it's close to dark, but it's still twilight. As I'm walking around the corner, I get this weird vibe to look down at the ground in the hallway, and there is a cricket. You guys, I swear. And I can't explain this. I sensed it telling me to literally take it outside. I put my hand, this is something else like guiding me. I put my hand down on the ground. The cricket jumps into my hand, crawls up to like right here, the sit right here. And I literally walk outside. I put my hand towards the ground and then it jumps off my hand into the grass. I was so astonished and so speechless that this happened. Like I was in a funk for like 10, 15 minutes. I texted Jim. I told him, I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe this. I also texted another guy who's a special forces guy who cannot be named here, who had told me a story when he was on a mission. I think I told you guys this in our show. He was 60 hours immobile, life or death. He's in a hostile place. And at 63 hours, he started to get loopy. And, he's got his watch on, so he's tracking. And he literally, what kept him alive was, and again, he won't tell anybody this. He's told me this. Jim knows too, because we consult with this guy. This guy's an amazing human being in life. He started to talk to the animals. They kept him alive. He said the squirrels were talking to him. He's like, bro, listen to me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't hallucinating. That they were fucking talking to me. They kept me alive because I was definitely going to go down. So there's something that happens with BDNF. And by the way, when he told me that story, he was like, I know you're not going to believe me. And I'm just telling you, bro, because he knows I'm like walking the spiritual enlightenment path or try to. And that, I'm open to these type of things, the woo-woo stuff. And he's like, it happened to me. It's all I can tell you. He's a hunter. He can't kill animals anymore, by the way. But he literally told me that it happened and it was legit. So I texted him too. And I'm like, bro. And then of course he calls me and he's like, we got to talk. And I have more shit to share with you, but you see, motherfucker. So anyway, I'm telling you guys, BDNF is that gateway. And the more BDNF production, the longer you do this, the more it happens. And again, it's not coincidence that all the great spiritual gurus and leaders have said that they went into nature and they fasted for 7 and 10 and 21. And we've heard it all, Ramadan, in Islam, it's 30 days. So there's something that's going on, regardless of your religious or spiritual beliefs, when you fast. And to me, it's a gateway connection to spirit. And spirit is whatever you want to believe it to be. But I had that happen to me. I told my wife, you guys, I literally had tears streaming down my face after that happened. And I don't even know why I was crying. It was spontaneous tears. It was like this insane connection to what is, like life, like the ecosystem, like we're all interconnected. It was just amazing. Well, just one other thing, I've also felt when I'm in that deep level that when I write or type my content, the words come out like in a flow, like there's no thought behind them. They're just elegant. So there's something to that too. Anyway, fasting long-term, BDNF production, it's just insane. Everyone should try to experience it.
I always feel like I'm the insane one. I talk a lot about vibrations, and we were talking earlier about how you get rid of the impurities and whatnot. And I've talked to Craig a lot about this and the guys, it's you set off a signal. When you fast, I've always said you feel more efficient. Your body is just light. Well, when you get rid of that static and that the impurities that are in your head, it's like you get rid of the white noise and you can receive a signal. And
there's no mind chatter.
Exactly.
My mentor is Matthew Ferry. He calls it the drunk monkey. The drunk monkey goes away when you're fasting and you've got BDNF, optimized and producing. And by the way, anyone will have BDNF, like you guys know, when you're fast adapted. It's natural. It's human. You can't escape it. It comes. But yeah, dude, the mind chatter, that fucking white noise, that signal, shit in your background, it goes away. I don't have any of that, by the way, in my life now. And I really do attribute it to fasting. I really, really do. I feel like I've eliminated it completely. I have a rule. If it's fear or love, if it's fear, it's an idea, it's a text message, it's a thought, it's an email, it's a message, it's anything. If it's fear-based, fuck you. That's how I do it. That's literally fuck you. I say it to that. If it's love-based, I take it in. I say, this is interesting. How can I apply this to my life? How can I help other people with this idea or this thought? But that's how I quantify literally everything now. Now, I don't always hold to it. I could be driving my new BMW and some asshole gets up next to me and, then the ego takes over. But the reality is that the more you can live your life, quantifying it based on if it's a love principle or a fear principle, better you're going to be. I mean, that's my opinion.
Jay, how long into a fast does BDNF production start to kick into overdrive?
I don't know, man. I wish I knew the answer. The studies show that it lasts for a long time. My guess is, knowing what we know from spiritual gurus and the stories that we get, I would assume it lasts for a long ass time. Now, I'm glad you asked me that because I want to bring this up. A lot of Holly weirdos and all these whack job, guru woo-woo people talk about juice fast. That's not a fucking fast. Have you ever seen these people that go into these communes and juice fast for 40 days or 60 days and they come back and they're emaciated, their muscles have collapsed. They've had no amino acids. I won't name names, but we have family members that went on, got sucked into one of these cults and destroyed their physiology, man.
Yeah, but the leaders sell a whole lot of juicers.
Bro, first off, again, you're not fasting when you have energy coming into the body. Whether it's a carbohydrate, a fat, or a protein molecule, you break the fast. So saying that you're fasting by drinking juice, no, dumbass. You're drinking carbohydrates. You're drinking fruits, fructose, sucrose, whatever. And you're not fasting. It's not fasting. You're breaking the fast. And ultimately, if you're not fasting and you're getting zero amino acids, you got problems. Remember, protein leads to muscle. Muscle retention is the goal in life extension. The more muscle you have, the more disease resistant you have. If you don't have any protein coming in, you can't maintain any muscle. So forget it. There's a lot of people out there, by the way, in the vegan world that swear that you don't need protein. And that something happens after 8 months of pure veganism and the body doesn't need to rely on protein and blah, blah, blah. It's a bunch of bullshit. They're getting protein from plants. They're eating beans or lentils or something, but they're getting protein. So anybody that tells you that you can survive as a human being without protein and amino acids, it's lies. It's utter nonsense.
So one of the notes that Hunter and I took during the last podcast we had, Jay, that he and I talked about a little bit after the podcast, after you had dropped off, was your recommendation to take 5 milligrams of Cialis. So for those who didn't listen to that podcast, I wanted you to kind of get into that in this show because we found that to be really interesting. Neither of us had ever heard the positive effects that you had talked about in that podcast. I don't know about Hunter. I'm still trying to figure out how to get my hands on some of that because you've talked it up so well. It's I got to give it a try now.
I'll send you a link, dude, right after the show and you can buy it and you'll have it 2 days. But
excellent.
Yeah, I actually talked to Richard today about that. We talked about that in his Patreon private story. So it's perfect seed because I just talked about it. Again, always default to the TOT Bible, whole section on Cialis, a whole section on endothelial dysfunction and function, why Cialis is critical for health. But yeah, it's truly next to testosterone. It's right there. You got testosterone, metformin, Cialis. Those three are the hierarchical drugs that all human beings interested in extending their life, living longer and stronger should be using. Cialis is doing so many different things. I could talk about it right now and tell you it's 3 or 4 primary benefits. And a month or two from now, there'll be 3 or 4 other things they find. But basically, it's an endothelial function drug. And basically, endothelial function is your body's reaction or what's the word I'm looking for? Defense against inflammation. So the better your endothelial function, the less likely you are to be inflamed. And that's in all tissue processes. So Cialis regulates or mediates or even upregulates endothelial function so that your body is resistant to inflammation. It's anti-sclerotic, so it literally prevents vascular occlusion, clogging of the arteries, again, all the cellular waste and byproducts that clog the arteries. It also is it's neuroprotective, so it does the same shit in the brain, in the dendritic and the synaptic pathways. It cleanses, it's cleaning, it's like a fumigator. It's the number one, it's first line drug defense against prostate BPH, benign prostate hypertrophy, which is obviously the increasing of the size of the testosterone as we age. So it improves urine flow and volume when a guy pisses as prostate's getting larger as he gets older. And then obviously, the things we know about it for. It's for sexual function. It improves the flow of blood to the penis. It improves nitrogen retention, which increases and engorges the gland. Your penis is a gland. It does so many fucking amazing things. It's incredible. And also, again, like it just keeps going on and on. Again, it's all in the book. It improves pump. So when you train, it increases nitric. It's NOS, right? All the bullshit NOS supplements that guys take and get flim-flammed. Well, guess what? This is a real NOS supplement that works. So it helps your pump. It improves your body's enzymatic pathways so that when you train, your glycogen muscle response system, your firepower, your force production is improved. And then you get a little bit of a pump. It leaves, if you have glycogen in your bloodstream, and it makes your body, your muscles pump up. So it does so many amazing things. But you take 2.5 to 5 milligrams a day for all the health reasons. If you want to go on a weekend, sex excursion with your wife or 3 strippers or whatever it is you do in your life, you take, 15 to 20 to 30 milligrams, and then that's going to last you over 36 to 48 hours. You can buy this stuff online. There's a million, search discounted Cialis pills. There's a million offshore pharmacies that sell it, but the easiest way to get it is through research chemical companies. So they sell liquid. That's how I use. I mean, like I said, I won't give it to you right now, but I'll send you a link to a place that you can buy it online. And it's amazing, dude. Like I told you guys, like I've given this to so many men, very successful, prominent, white collar people in life. And they write back to me and they're like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? How have I not been using this? I cannot believe this. I mean, I had guys like, I just remember some guy who was like 36 years old. He was coming off of a divorce. And I remember telling him, I was like, here, send this link, go buy 4 bottles of this. And he did. And he went to Vegas. I just remember the text message he sent me. This is a while back. He's just like, dude, he sent a picture of his face, like, like, I cannot believe this. He's like, I love you. He's like, anytime. He's an attorney, a very successful attorney. He's like, this is pro bono for life, that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's just an amazing drug and every man should be on it. And the fact that they're not is, again, guys, we know the sick care system is not about optimization. It's about treating disease and essentially medicating the disease and keeping you sustainable, broken down over time, buying their pills and their potions and whatever else they sell you, drugs to address side effects of the other bullshit drugs they give you to keep you fat, barely breathing, and alive as long as possible, making money. It's that simple. I hate saying that because it's a horrible, assessment of the medical / sick care industry. There's nothing medical about it, but that's where we're at, guys. So it's like I say, do you want to be dependent on the sick care model, taking 25 pills, color-coded with, charts every day at 55 or 60, or do you want to be optimizing, using testosterone, using metformin, hopefully modulating your thyroid and fasting? Those are the 4 mediators. It's your choice. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I know what you 2 guys are doing. I mean, I think you got to be nuts to not do that.
You talked a lot about in the last one and a few times here, being your own advocate. You've got to be your advocate. You've got to see what works. You've got to dial yourself in, or else, like you said, you're going to be stuck to the sick care system and just barely alive. So we touched on a few supplements, and you had said you wanted to dive into when you go into fasting, you're going to take it serious. Somebody's picking up a copy of the Metabolic Blowtorch Diet, and they're wondering, what should I supplement with to ensure I do this most efficiently? And, I'm not wasting my time. I want to get the most I can from this.
Awesome. And again, it's always default in the book. So if I forget something, but it also always comes down to, again, what your goals are, what your, current body condition is. If you're injured and inflamed, which, usually if you're injured, you have soft tissue degradation, you're inflamed in that area. The number one thing you can do, and I'm starting to change this to add this in, but you got to take turmeric or curcumin. You should take 4 to 6 grams of turmeric/curcumin a day. The best source that I found and most economical, most guys can find it, is through Vitamin Shop. Vitamin Shop has a 900 milligram capsule. That's what I take. So you can, slam 4 capsules, 5 capsules a day if you're inflamed and you have soft tissue injuries. And that's where I always go here, because that's where my issues are. I actually was in a serious bike accident in New York City last year. I can't really show you guys without ripping my sleeve off, and then I got to show how big I am.
These guns.
But I have like nerve ending damage through here, because I literally flew off a bicycle in Central Park and almost died. And so it's still there, but like since I started incorporating a lot more turmeric and curcumin, it's definitely reduced it. I get ART, active release technique therapy, once a month. And that helps. Actually, I have a session this weekend. I'm very excited. I have an amazing lady. She's been 21 years doing that. And by the way, that's in the book. Everybody that has injuries should be using active release technique massage. I'm not going to go any further than that. Look that up. There's websites online that show ART certified practitioners everywhere in North America. If you have injuries, soft tissue, you should be seeing ART. But back to what you're saying. I mean, like, the reality is that it's imperative that we protect our soft tissues as we age. Okay, we build muscle, and we do that obviously through all the stuff that we're talking about. What was the main point you said to me? Because my brain just melted down. The original question.
If you got a list or not, I know it's in the book.
Supplements.
But for the guys looking for supplements.
So turmeric, obviously 4 to 6 grams if you're inflamed. If you're not inflamed, like 2 grams a day is fine as a maintenance dose. Glucosamine. So Jim and I are looking into glucosamine. Now, everybody knows about glucosamine. It's age old, glucosamine, chondroitin, and vitamin K and vitamin D, and, different form of calcium, blah, blah, blah. But there's more research coming out. PD, Dennis put some research out there the other day about glucosamine. I read this doctor, on the gerontology research, they're looking at glucosamine as similar to metformin. So there's something that glucosamine is doing in high dosage. So if you're injured, you're inflamed, you have soft tissue injuries, I would actually add in 3 grams of glucosamine twice a day. So similar to turmeric and curcumin that you're taking 4 to 6 grams, you're also going to add in 3 to 6 grams of glucosamine in combination. That is going to heal soft tissue injuries and inflammation faster than any of the bullshit drugs they write you, Celebrex, what do you call it? Ibuprofen, Tylenol, any of that shit, the NSAIDs. You don't need that shit. That shit fucks your liver up. It can also fuck up your kidneys. Do not take that stuff long-term. Ibuprofen is good. And again, this is all in the book and the TOT Bible. Ibuprofen is really good when you're seriously traumatized, because it does reduce fever and it reduces inflammation instantly. Okay. But do not be on that more than 72 hours. That will get the localized inflammation to the point where then you can start taking the supplements. Again, rest of it, depending on goals, if you're looking to get, shredded, competition ready, walk around with your shirt off, investigate albuterol. You should definitely be on metformin. Metformin is obviously not a supplement. It's a medication. It's easy to get metformin. In-house pharmacy.vu, Victor underwear. They sell it. It's very simple to get it. Most doctors today, again, in the TOT Bible, we have it should be a tear out or it should be perforated, but it's not. But there's a page in there. You could just copy it or photo, with your phone, step by step, how to say to your doctor why you want to get a metformin prescription.
So I know we're waiting for the questions at the end, but somebody did ask how much metformin they should take a day. So I figured I'd ask that now since you're on the subject.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get to the questions, and I'm here as long as you guys need me. I have a solid hour and 15 minutes, so we'll keep going. But so realistically, metformin should be started, go low, go slow. Tim Ferriss, minimum effective dosage, 250 to 500 milligrams to start. So women, 250, guys, 500. Again, if you have an inflamed stomach, you're going to probably get a little bit nauseous, a little bit flatulence or whatever, it goes away, but, make sure you use the XR version, which is extended release, which is enterically coated, so it won't bother your stomach as much. I take 1 gram AM, 1 gram PM. I've been on metformin for 13 years. As you can see, I'm aging backwards. I have blood work, to say the same thing. I have an H1 ABC level that's like fucking ultra triathlete. It does so many amazing things. But anyway, 250 to 500 and then proceed upwards. There's a lot of studies. You can't go over 2 grams a day realistically, because the liver, there's like a cumulative net tissue buildup effect in the liver, and the liver can't handle more than 2 grams. I mean, they actually say scientifically it's 1,650 milligrams. That's what the studies are. But Jim and I have been using 2 grams ourselves for literally like 5+ years, and we're fine. So The other one, and again, it's not really a supplement, although it is. I mean, there's a glandular form of thyroid. Again, everything is relative to your goals, but if you're trying to improve fat loss, that's your primary goal, and most people are, right? They're fat. There's so many obese people. A glandular thyroid extract, which can be found on Amazon. I prefer the drug, which you can get from antiagingsystems.com, which is a porcine thyroid. We're not talking about a drug that the doctors prescribe for women like Synthroid, T3, T4. This is a porcine version, so it's a combination of T3 and T4, and it's not at a dosage that can fuck up or disturb natural thyroid function. If you guys remember, I was talking to you guys about, I think one of your wives is on thyroid medication, and it's not right.
She's on levothyroxine.
Yeah, that shit is absolute garbage. But that's the average quack doctor. That's what they prescribe. I mean, that's, they don't know enough about this stuff. That's what the medical school teaches them. That's what the pharmaceutical rep teaches them. And it's just habit. It's old hat. That's how they roll. And what ends up happening with those drugs, especially with women that are giving a mega dosage, dude, their natural thyroid's gone. It literally shuts down thyroid production. They become dependent on thyroxine or levothyroxine or whatever forever. And it's very unfortunate.
She's the one that turned me on to being the own advocate, and she's going to war with her doctor right now over this. It's ridiculous. Why they're just fighting back, and she's like, "Why not? You guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
Well, no, and they don't. And make sure, by the way, and we didn't say this last time, make sure she buys the book "Stop the Thyroid Madness" if she hasn't bought that book. So write that down. Make sure she reads that book, because that'll give you much more insight and intel into this. My ex-wife, and I don't want to have a conversation about my ex-wife because she put me in jail and tried to ruin my life and barely even talks to her own daughters. She's not a very good parent.
Let's go there, brother. That sounds interesting.
Hold on. I've let go of my attachment to negativity. Last night, I actually had a conversation with my 8 and 10-year-old daughters about her, and I never disparage her. But my 8-year-old daughter literally said, "Yeah, Daddy, Mommy wouldn't even be able to watch us because she would leave us at home while she was at work." So it's like, the reality is we do what we do with parents. As you guys know, there's no instructional manual to be a parent. Okay. And I don't want to go off tangent, but the reality is that you should be there for your kids. Women who have 2 or 3 births normally have a defective thyroid forever after that. So you better find a doctor who knows what the fuck they're doing and can create subclinical hyperthyroidism, can create thyroid dysfunction and malfunction and disorder, and don't put them on the standard operating procedure protocol, which is what your wife got quacked on, which will then shut down their body's natural thyroid production. Because it is already, if that guy came on and was on my show right now, he'd probably attack me. And first he'd say, "Well, what are your medical credentials?" And I'd be like, "That's my medical credential," right? But the reality is that they are just practicing what they've learned from the pharma reps who've come into their office and said, "This is how you treat this thing." And they also have obviously been reinforced in medical school. And that's how the establishment, the sick care model works. They just learn what they're peddled and they're taught to do that. And they don't go any further. They don't have time to read the research. I actually have a big study in the TOT Bible of why doctors are not trained up to modern state of relevance, because they don't have time. They're fucking in the sick care system. They have 30 patients to see in an 8-hour window. I mean, what is that? But anyway, women get defective thyroids from childbirth. It's very known. It's very established, again, in the clinical literature, but it's not treated correctly. There are physicians out there that know how to treat this. There's a lot of really good doctors out there that can treat this. So I never disparage doctors, but the average doctor will fuck you up. It's that simple. Clearly, your wife has probably been fucked up. Now, that doesn't mean her thyroid is permanently damaged or altered for good, because she seemingly is now her own advocate, which, thanks to you and, obviously all of us helping and pushing this forward. And obviously more people are going to see this. More guys are going to watch this and they're going to talk to their wives, because they're going to go look at their bottle and they're going to be like, "Well, what the fuck? You're on this shit too."
Yep.
Yeah, it's standard operating procedure. But the reality is that most standard operating procedure for doctors and medical in the sick care system is not right. And that's where we're at. So again, you got to become aware. Back to the supplement. I'm thinking if there's anything else. You can take creatine. Creatine, remember, is great. We write about this in the TOT Bible for brain, for neurogenesis in the brain. It does so many things. Again, it's another supplement, but it's not the be-all, end-all supplement that it once was, promoted to be. It's not going to build muscle. You're not going to gain 20 pounds of mass from extracellular water retention. It's a bunch of nonsense. 5 grams a day of creatine is the dosage. If you remember to take it before your workout, great. If you take it during the day when you're eating, great. You can take it fasted. It's not going to cause an insulin response, not that I know of. So that's good too. And that's pretty much it. You should get calcium. Bone Up by Jarrow Formulas is definitely the best calcium supplement because it has a form of calcium called hydropoxate. And hydropoxate is the bone-bearing calcium mineral. And you need that when you're weight training or doing bone-bearing, resistance training as you're aging so that your body's, calcium stores and your bone mineral density continues to stay upregulated and where it needs to be. I think that's it. I don't know. Vitamin D3 for men who are deficient, again, blood work determined. Most men who don't get sunlight, they're not in SoCal, they're in places in the Midwest or upper northern polar climes. You should take vitamin D3 because you are usually deficient in sunlight. So that's another one. But I mean, these are all in the TOT Bible. Every single thing is outlined. If I left anything off, there are stuff like glutathione and other stuff, more exotic stuff. That's all listed in the books. But I think I gave you the meat and potatoes.
Perfect.
Yeah, at the beginning of the podcast, Jay, you mentioned how you like coming on the Family Alpha podcast because we hold your feet to the fire a little bit. So I'm going to hold you accountable to something you said early on, which is you said Martin Birkin, lean gains. He's wrong in his philosophies on fasting. So I want you to elaborate on that a little bit here. Now that we've gone through all the information not all the information, but a lot of the information you had to give on that. Where is he wrong in your opinion?
So he's right at 98%, but where he's wrong, and this is a huge wrong, is training fasted. Okay. And I'm really going from memory right now. I don't have lean gains in front of me, but I mean, I definitely adapted my protocol. And again, first off, Martin and I got into an argument on Twitter, and I actually was trying to give him credit, and he's very, I won't go down the path that he went down with me, but it was very low conscious type shit. I always say that I stand on the shoulders of giants. He was the guy that brought this to the mainstream, and I have love and respect and props to him for that. And I hope he watches this podcast and he sees that, and he sees that I'm, open air and, gesture, charitable, saying, hey man, I appreciate you, but the science behind training fasted proves that training fasted, and I'm not talking about 12 hours without eating and training. I'm talking about fasted 20 hours, 18 hours and training without food, without glycogen is not efficient for building muscle. Okay. Because again, muscle building is the greatest deterrent to disease as one ages. So training fasted, A, you don't have optimal workouts because you have low muscle glycogen, and B, you set yourself up for injury. And that training protocol talks about taking BCAAs and other, supplements, NOS and whatever else before you train to get the benefit that you would normally get from having full muscle glycogen stores. It's nonsense. There's no science to prove any of that. I do want to have a caveat, and this is obviously in the metabolic low torch diet. It's one of the FAQ questions at the end. Training fasted is fine if you have a medical need to lose body fat. So if you're so morbidly obese that your doctor says, hey, dude, you got 1 foot in the grave, you got to reduce calories, increase movement pattern, fast, do ketogenic, whatever you got to do, then it's okay to train fasted because there clearly is biochemical cascades that happen when you're training fasted. There's increased growth hormone, increase of epinephrine. Again, the fight or flight hormones happen. There's an increase in adrenaline. There's a minimal increase, very nominal increase in growth hormone and glucogen. Again, all these biochemical signals, there's some of that. So that will ultimately, from a net effect, increase thermogenesis, which ultimately leads to caloric burning, which ultimately leads to increase in loss of body fat, weight, ultimately body composition change. But that's so nominal that it's not worth it if you're like us and you're training fasted, because again, the risk to injury is extremely high and your training is going to suffer because you don't have full muscle glycogen stores. You guys all know what it's like to train under low muscle glycogen. The training sucks. The workout sucks. You don't feel good. Now, again, I want people who watch this before they come at me on Twitter, because they will, to understand what I mean when I say training fasted. I'm not meaning 12 hours. This does not mean that you go at 8 o'clock at night and eat 6 bowls of cereal and train at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, which is 12, 13 hours, and think that you're training fasted. Of course you're not training fasted. Your muscle glycogen stores are still full from that food. But if you go another 10 hours or 9 hours or 8.5 hours and you train, then you're training fasted. And then what I'm saying applies. Make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we've gone through all of our questions. The last one that we had was, are there any individuals who should not do intermittent fasting? And I'm thinking type 1, type 2 guys, someone who's pregnant. We talked thyroid diseases. Is there any populations that, maybe this just isn't, it's right for it. I fucking love it, but there's nothing wrong with me. So
No,
maybe there's a person like, hey, maybe this isn't for me because of X.
No, great question. A type 1 diabetic cannot fast. Okay. An insulin dependent diabetic has to, do blood glucometer checks 6 to 8 times a day. I just did an amazing podcast last week with a guy by the name of Michael Griffin. His company is called 4D or 3D Abs Transformational Systems out of Texas. Brilliant guy, super high conscious. He's a CSCS, a clinical strength and conditioning specialist. He's also a clinical nutritional guy. He's just brilliant. And he's 56 years old and he looks amazing. He's completely natural. He's never been on testosterone, but he's a maniac. He's a type 1 diabetic since birth. So everything is supremely analytical. He's very anal retentive, but analyzed, and his diet. I mean, he has to be or he dies. He checks his blood sugar 8 times a day. He while he's training, he'll fucking take whatever quick sugar he has to do. So those people can't fast. That's medical necessity, can't fast. Other than that, other than like some rare exotic disease that I don't understand probably well enough from a cellular waste level or a muscle formation level, everyone can fast. Fat people who say genetically, I can't do it. I mean, everybody has excuses. People that have autoimmune disorders, fibromyalgia, Crohn's disease, there's all these other ones that fall under that. That's bullshit. And by the way, I'm going to step on a lot of people's toes who watch this, probably clinicians and some doctors, but most autoimmune disease is diet. Remember what I told you guys on our last podcast that at some point long after I'm dead, when I'm reincarnated in a new body, they will figure out that all disease is metabolic. So it's all nutritional based in nature. Cancer, everything is metabolic. God did not make people to have cancer. They didn't create cancer. We create cancer. This is us and our modern living and our poisoning of our body's systems is what causes disease, period. And guess what? The primary pathway or mediator is food. What goes into our gullet is what causes the inflammation, which causes the disease, all the degradation, blah, blah, blah. So ultimately, that's what causes disease. That's what ultimately we lead to. So there's no reason, again, dude, I just lost my train of thought. What was the question again? I just completely spaced.
People who shouldn't fast.
People who shouldn't fast. Other than that, the type 1 diabetic or some exotic disease, that's what I wanted to get. My point was that if you have fibromyalgia, you have autoimmune disorders, Crohn's, any of these things, you need to fast more than anything because that is a gut microbiota infection. They know now at the highest levels of the research that you have a brain in the gut. And they actually are now saying the brain in the gut is more powerful than the brain up here.
I've seen that.
So clearly that stuff is because you have an imbalance in your gut brain. So fasting is going to cure whatever shit you got going on down there more than anything else. So again, I don't see anyone that can't fast. Now, again, I know I'm missing something. Some doctor's going to watch this and they're going to send me a message. Okay, fact check me, whatever. I appreciate that I'm wrong and I appreciate you pointing it out, but most people can fast. There's very, very little understanding in the literature of people that can't fast. If you're weak mentally, then yeah, you're going to come up with some story, some self-talk that says you can't fast, but it's a gut check. There's no reason you can't fast. You can definitely train your body to fast. Anyone can do it.
Now, Jay, on that note, we talk about training your body to fast. Do you recommend somebody who's never fasted before, they're the typical American, follow a typical American diet, they're eating every 3 to 4 hours or more frequently than that? Do you recommend a scaled approach to that where they will start out, maybe going 8 hours without eating and then working their way up?
I do. So first mediator response is no carbs after 6. Then move to no carbs at 3 p.m. after 3 p.m. And then maybe 12 o'clock. And again, this is for someone who's morbidly obese, who has a massively infected gut biome. And then after 12 o'clock, no carbs, then you move to a 12-hour fast. Now, again, this is simple. You guys know this. Martin Burkhan's does a good job of this breaking down. All the fasting guys, Ori Hoffmeyer does the warrior diet. There's many other ones, Jason Fung. I mean, if you shut it down at 6:30 and you don't eat until 12 o'clock the next day, that's a normal 16-hour fast. How hard is it to skip breakfast? Right? I mean, so many people drink coffee with shit loaded in their coffee. Cream, the bulletproof idiots, 6 tablespoons of lard or MCT oil or whatever. I mean, so it's that simple. Don't eat in the morning.
One of the greatest lifestyle benefits of following an intermittent fasting lifestyle is not eating in the morning. I don't have time to prepare something. I don't care to eat. I'm usually not hungry anyway.
Exactly.
And I feel better when I don't eat.
So Craig, I want you to promise me you'll do this. I want you to stop, extend your fast. So you normally break it at like 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2.
Yeah, correct.
Extend your fast till 6 o'clock and do it for the next month and come back to me and tell me what happens. You're literally going to be mind blown.
No, I've done that before. You mentioned the warrior diet, Jay. I followed that for a little while, and I can't remember the author's name. You mentioned it a couple times here.
Yeah, Ori Hoffmeyer. It's a great book.
Correct. And so he talks about kind of snacking during the day on like fruits and nuts and that kind of thing, and then having a feast at night. And so I took that a step further where I didn't eat anything, and I only was eating 1 meal a day. And I felt fantastic. I literally could see body fat melting off my body after just 1 week.
So there you go. You already know.
Yeah. I do. And I got off of it and haven't really gone back. I've followed him.
Here's the problem with his diet, though. Here's the problem with his diet. And I answer this a little bit in the question in the book, and I should have done a better job as admitted failure of mine. 1 meal a day creates an issue with ghrelin, which is again that GHRELEN, because you do get to a point where you become ravenous. And again, it's all biochemistry. It's all metabolic pathways. This is a very known understanding. So eating 1 meal a day leads to a lot of men and women who do it to overeat. So something we should mention, which is a really good hack for guys that break their fast. So let's just say, we should have said this. I'm glad you brought that up because it's perfect. Let's say you're a faster, you do 20 hours and that's what you're going to do, but you always break your fast and you eat once or twice at 20 hours, right? Or maybe 19 hours, whatever. And you eat like every 90 minutes, you eat 2 meals. If you're fat and you're doing that, you should definitely not eat any carbs when you break your fast. So again, Jim Brown's meat and veggies will make your dreams come true. Eat meat and green vegetables, or, and this is kind of like a hack, a really good multi-amino acid spectrum protein powder, truenutrition.com. Get your protein from there. Don't waste time getting protein from anywhere else until we sell it, because it's going to be better. But MCT oil and a multi-spectrum protein blend is also a good adjunct to meat and veggies, right? Because it's instantaneous, it's convenient. You can just throw in the MCT oil. The MCT oil tastes vanilla-ish, like almost like a vanilla extract or almost a nut. It tastes like a nutty flavor. But again, it's very satiating because it's a fat. It's an oil-based fat. And that's it. If you eat a regular big meal that's full of carbohydrates and you're fat and you break your fast, the likelihood that you increase the biochemical cascade insulin to make you eat more and overeat is high. Also, do not eat nuts. A lot of guys fuck up because they start eating handfuls of almonds and all of a sudden they just ate 2,500 calories of almonds in fucking 10 minutes. So don't eat nuts. Anything that's super calorically dense, energy dense, like peanut butter or nuts before you eat a meal, that can fuck you up too. Because I've seen a lot of guys, they're trying to lose body fat. They fast for 20 hours and then all of a sudden, boom, they ate 4,000 calories in a fucking hour period.
Hunter and his wife's world just came crashing down, Jay.
Exactly. They've completely undone the 20-hour fast.
I destroyed some pistachios.
I mean, all of us have done it. I mean, again, it's no condemnation of anybody who does it. But just, again, if you're like us, it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to lose body fat in the fastest, most efficient way possible, do not eat carbs when you break your fast until you get to a level where you feel good, your maintenance level, and then you eat whatever the fuck you want. Because normally at 20 hours of fasting, you can pretty much eat whatever you want, okay? When you get adapted, you're not going to have these hunger pangs or this natural tendency to overeat. Now, there's going to be nights where you splurge, of course. You're out with the family. I like I told you guys on the last one, like on Sunday nights, when I'm fasting for a whole weekend, I'll break my fast on Sunday night dinner with the family. We go to fucking Coco's because Monica's dad likes Coco's. And I get like the 12-ounce, prime rib and a fucking loaded baked potato. And then I have a fucking half of apple pie or like a huge giant thing of apple pie and ice cream. Right. And I just fasted for fucking 49 hours. So who cares? Right. Your body is metabolically primed to handle the surplus of calories. It's not going to do, you're not going to do damage. That's even if you're a fat person. Now, I don't recommend that if you're a fat person because you're still trying to lose body fat. But just remember meat and veggies or protein powder and MCT oil. And MCT oil could also be almond butter or peanut butter. Just don't overdo it. Half a tablespoon and a half, at max 2 tablespoons in a blender with ice. There you go. Those are the meals for fat people at night when they break their fast to not overindulge and to make a major, what is called an insulinic response where their insulin goes haywire. Because remember too, and we should talk about this. I'm glad I just thought of this, but when you eat a huge meal at night and then you lay down and you're asleep in 2 hours, guess what? Your body is laying there with fucking 3,000 or 4,000 calories in its gut and it's trying to metabolize them. And it creates, while you're sleeping, inflammation because your body is asleep and it's not efficient at burning calories when all of its cellular processes are slowed down, if not shut down, because that's the time you're supposed to be in tissue repair, not, convert calories and burn shit. So that's not good. So do not go to bed 90 minutes after eating a 4,000 calorie meal, especially with a lot of carbohydrates, because your body's just going to lay there and you're like, you're in gastric distress. You feel like shit. And that does, by the way, lead to a morning of the next day where you really do feel like shit. You definitely have cortisol increase. You have a lot of shit that's happened chemically that makes you feel like shit. Totally.
And one of the things that a lot of people do in our culture, Jay, that we haven't really talked about is they consume alcohol. It's how they relax. It's how they socialize.
Yep.
So I think somebody might be questioning, okay, if I get on this metabolic blowtorch diet, what are my restrictions in terms of going out and having a good time, having a few drinks with my friends?
Awesome question, man. I'm glad you asked it. So, and again, in the in the TOT Bible, 4 ounces, this is the science, 4 ounces of red wine is fine. When you go over 4 ounces of red wine, as we both know, that's not a lot of wine. That's like a glass.
Not enough.
Small glass, yes.
Yeah, a small glass. Unfortunately, again, I just say the science. I have no judgment for people to drink, whatever. We talk about alcohol in the TOT Bible. Unfortunately, alcohol has a very harmful quality of converting to triglycerol, which ultimately converts to triglyceride, which is fat in the blood. Okay. The sticky fat that sticks to the arteries, the internal organs, the places where you don't want fat accumulation. So if you're going to overconsume alcohol, you're definitely going to fuck up your fasting. You're going to get zero benefits of fasting from overconsuming alcohol. Also, remember, alcohol converts to estrogen. And it improves aromatase expression in the body. So aromatase is what, is the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone into estrogen, which leads to estrogenic side effects, which obviously you don't want. Alcohol is poisoning. Richard asked me today about marijuana. There's a lot of research coming out about weed now, even the medicinal forms. Also increasing, I can't remember, but there's a big article in High Times. Go on to hightimes.com. It's the last 6 weeks. You'll find it. It's in their archives. Marijuana also, the THC also increases estrogen. So if you smoke a lot of weed, that is converting to estrogen. That's creating this estrogen, high estrogen dominant body fat, regional body fat deposition. So that shit, both of those things, unfortunately, really cause havoc with fasting and optimized living. If you're going to drink, like I said, drink 4 ounces of red wine a day. If you're going to drink hard liquor, it's got to be brown liquor and it's got to be with nothing. It's got to be on the rocks, a tequila, a rum. Vodka's okay. I mean, there's certain vodkas that have sugar in them. All these flavored vodkas are fucking poison. There's sugar in them. They're putting sugar in it. So all of that stuff, like, again, after a certain level is going to convert to fat that sticks on your internal organs, sticks in the places that you don't want it. That's the problem. I always say that, like, where we're prone to store body fat is where liquor accumulates. That's why guys that drink a lot of beer have beer bellies. The beer is literally converting to visceral fat right on their fucking, it's called, regional adiposity right on their stomach. HIV has what is called, I forget what, lipodystrophy. And that's where these guys, because they have issues right there with the glands, they get all this thick visceral fat accumulation right above the intestines and the stomach organs and stuff down there. And it's like, it's a death threat, a death signal, because having fat right there is what leads to heart attack and all these other vascular issues. And also, things of the intestines and the liver and stuff like that. So that's just a big no-no, man. I mean, I hate saying that to guys because so many guys, like, their life is based on alcohol. But man, if you want to be optimized, you don't drink alcohol. As I told you guys, I can't say I haven't had a drop of alcohol in 14 years now, because I did have that dare with my sales director and his wife and my wife. They made us drink like a couple ounces of red wine about four months ago. And so I did it, and I was fucking wasted, by the way, because I haven't had any alcohol. But alcohol is a choice. It's a personal choice, and I just choose not to drink it. And I wasn't an alcoholic or a recovering alcoholic or any of that shit. I just choose not to drink it. It's no help for me.
So I did have some questions pop in.
Go ahead.
I don't know if we want to start that now or.
No, hit me. I think we covered everything, guys. And again, this has been mind-blowing, fascinating. I'm going to push this out everywhere. This is fucking awesome. I don't know of any, what didn't we dispel about fasting?
Can't think of anything, man.
The one thing I could think of is the importance of actually getting the book. Take the notes. There are things that we can't cover because, there's so much friggin' information. Get it, write in it. Take the notes. It's one of those things where if you can buy beer, you can buy a damn book. Invest in yourself. Invest in something that's going to make you better. It's easy to say while listening to this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to start my first fast tomorrow. I'm motivated. This is going to happen. I'm going to watch YouTube videos. I'm going to be jacked up. Tomorrow, I change my life. And then you go to bed, and then you wake up and you say, fuck that. That's hard. No, just commit to something. Give it 1 month if that's what it is. But just try. Invest in you. And that's whoever's made it this far and listening.
Now,
Awesome,
Jay, where's
man.
the best place to get your book? Amazon?
Yeah, if for the Metabolic Blood Torch Diet, if you're in North America, and I shouldn't say that, you're in the continental USA, we send you the book for free. It's metabolicblowtorchdiet.com. You just pay shipping, which is $8.95. So we'll send you the paperback. It's pretty decent because I think we charge $15 or $14.95 on Amazon. But if you want to get it the fastest way possible, for sure, going to Amazon is the best way. On Kindle, it's $9.95. If you guys are watching this show, of course, right now, send an email and say, you're listening to the Family Alpha, or follow me on Twitter or whatever, or both, all those things. Cause I like to, like I said, create this bigger fraternity of excellence. I love that idea you guys have. Just send me an email, jay@trtrevolution.com, and I'll be happy to send you a PDF copy of it. As Hunter has said and Craig has echoed, read the fucking book, guys. Don't send me emails saying, hey, I wrote your book, and then ask me some stupid question that has no relevance to anything that you read because you didn't read the book. Understand it, take notes. I always respond to people, even when it's like asinine, because that's just who I am. But I've gotten to the point now where, like, if you definitely have not read my book and said you did, I don't respond. I just delete your email because you're lying to me. But, these guys are right. You got to read. Action or, information without action is insanity, right? That's where it is. You read, you learn, and you apply. There isn't anything beyond that. This stuff is very simple. Like I said, it's written at a 7th grade level. All of your listeners, all of my listeners, all of my followers can understand it, but you have to fucking read it.
You think we missed anything, Craig? Or move on to the questions?
No, let's go on to the questions.
All right. The first question is going to be mine. So I drink these seltzers. 100% calorie-free, sugar-free, everything free. I've always thought they were legit for not breaking the fast. Ingredients of carbonated water and artificial flavors. They're fair game, correct?
I think you can drink them. I drink, full disclosure, I'll drink a sugar-free, whatever they're fucking called now. Coca-Cola is taking advantage of the low sugar, non-sugar. What was it? Coke Zero is now called sugar-free Coke. What a fucking joke. But clearly, it's an indulgent pleasure. I will drink a sugar-free Coke on a Sunday after I've been fasting for 40 plus hours. I don't feel it knocks me. I know it doesn't knock me out of my fast. Is it good for me? No. Is a carbonated drink good for us? No. There's acids in the drinks that fuck up our stomach lining. There's like phosphoric acid and a couple other things that are not good for us. But again, ultimately, we're in life. We want to have fun. We want to enjoy life. Is it, make or break you? No. Now, I did have a guy who coaches with me who might be watching this right now. He'll probably write in if he is and say, it's me, and write his hand up. But we found out his weight loss plateaued and everything stalled out, and it stalled out for like 45 days. And we had to investigate deep down, and motherfucker was drinking 8 Diet Cokes a day.
Damn.
So if you're one of those people, that could, we're all different. We're all biochemically unique. That could definitely slow down the weight loss and the body composition change, because again, that's a lot of acid. That's a lot of detriment to your gut microbiota. So again, 1 a day. Okay. I drink mostly water with caffeine, right? I get like the Walmart cheap. I'm cheap. I buy it for like $2.69 versus paying for it at Target or, any of the grocery stores, which is like $3.99 or whatever. I just got the Walmart brands. It's right here. I think it's called Great Value Cherry Limeade. It's got caffeine in it. We're actually working on a supplement that's going to have teacrine, which is in our energy memory focus. That'll be in this. And teacrine is way better than caffeine, because remember, caffeine has you get addicted to caffeine. So it's called receptor attenuation. Your receptors get saturated. Theacrine is better than caffeine, not in theory and practice, because there's no receptor attenuation. So you can take theacrine forever and you don't get addicted to it. You can stop taking it cold turkey. So, but it's very similar in its effects. Obviously, it increases focus, increases energy. There's a lot of things it does, but it's a really awesome supplement. So we're working on our own theacrine squirt bottle for guys to take when they're, essentially it'll be like a fast juice, like literally like, squirt this in your water and take this, and it'll extend your fast window or make you have less, because it also has a very mild appetite suppressant effect. But again, that's in our supplement now, our nootropic energy memory focus. Highly recommend guys that are looking for, an amazing over-the-counter nootropic. It's optimizedlifenutrition.com. We sell it. It's expensive, but it's because it's the number one nootropic in the class. There's nothing that compares with it. Like Alpha Brain, which is Joe Rogan on its supplement, can't hold a fucking candle to it. So, but it's, it's expensive. It's $69.95 plus shipping. It's a month's supply, but it's a really good product. But, that's to answer that question, dude, as long as it's 1 or 2 a weekend, in long fast hours, I think you're fine. Just don't overload on anything that has phosphoric acid in it. It's carbonated.
Cool. I've got 2 others, but you want to go, Craig?
I don't have them in front of me, so have at it.
So should teens fast? So this is coming from a dad. He's got a teen son who's fasting and he plays sports. And the follow-up, if you want to answer both, is drinking sugar-free, everything-free Gatorade Zeros. Is that considered still fasting?
It is actually, although some of those things, without knowing them, have replacement sugars, which, as Craig very correctly pointed out earlier in the podcast, we know for a fact they do create an insulinic response. A lot of the replacement sugars are absolute garbage. Biochemically, they're fucking people up internally. Again, doing shit to the gut microbiota. I would definitely not have your son drinking some of these horrible replacement sugars. I won't mention their names, but some of the real common shit that's on the shelves in grocery stores is not good. But I think the question regarding fasting in your child, it really just comes down to his body fat level. If he's obese, and we know that that's a massive epidemic in society today. And again, not to this guy or anyone who watches the show, because I know you guys are about, family and stuff. If you're a parent and your child is obese, you're fucking guilty of child abuse.
100%. Yep. I completely agree with that.
So fuck you. If your child is obese, you're fucking guilty of child abuse because you caused it. You created the environment. I don't give a shit what your excuses are. You're poor. You can't afford good food. It's all fucking bullshit. It's self-talk. It's story. Get your kid exercising. Get your kid stop playing video games. Get him out in the street. Get him riding his bike, playing with friends. It's a bunch of bullshit. Whenever I see that, guys, I literally want to cry. I mean, literally, I want to cry. You are literally destroying your child's life, and they're just a child. I mean, it's just, oh my God, man, my soul just. Anyway, obviously you guys know.
I love that you touched on that, Jags. Hunter and I talk a lot about that as far as taking that a step further, setting the example as the father in the home. If you're walking around eating crap food, not exercising, living obese, what do you think your kids are going to do?
It's embarrassing. I mean, you literally are putting your children in a deficit where you're shortening their lifespan, right? We know the stats. We know the statistics. If your kid is taking insulin at 19 or 20 because of their body fat or their composition or their failed insulin receptors. And we don't even talk about this in the show, but I'll just mention it. You only have a certain amount of genetic insulin beta cells in the pancreas that suppress and control your body's insulinic response to insulin from sugar. And so if you're literally overwhelming your child through shitty food, high sugar, high fructose, all this, HFC, and then obviously, high carbohydrate, simple carbohydrate garbage, and your child becomes dependent on insulin in your 18 or 19, I mean, that's child abuse, man. You literally just put your child in a situation where they have shortened their lifespan by literally 15 to 20 years. That's a statistical fact.
It's not just the length of the life, though. That is not a life well lived. No. If it's a fat boy, he's not going to be confident with girls. He's not going to be able to see what it's like to be in a sports team. He's not going to be able to climb to the top of mountains and see those views. It's not just the length of the life. They don't live a life. I see no difference between an obese child and a malnutrition child. It's the same type of abuse, just different spectrum.
100%, brother. 100%.
Fuck, now my heart's on fire. God damn it.
Me too, man. I mean, I just saw the other day my daughter, went to a party, and I won't mention names and stuff because I don't know who's watching the show and stuff like that. But her daughter is like 7 years old and she's morbidly obese. That's horrible. They're already making fun of her. Like Monica told me that like my older daughter has a clique of friends that make fun of her. And, she didn't want to go to the party because her friends were like making fun of her to say, you can't go to that fat girl's party. And she's like 7 or 8 years old.
That's fucked up.
But I mean, I saw her and the mom is really sweet. And, she came up and talked to me and invited me to the party. It was like picking up the girls at school. And I mean, my heart was screaming, dude. But what can you do? You can't say anything. It's not my place. It's not my right.
Right.
Sucks, man.
I need to find an answer to that question. I've been asking it for a long time. What do I do?
I mean, you can't do anything. It's like the people in the gym, right? We watch people in the gym training and they have absolutely no fucking idea. They're a danger to themselves. They're a danger to others. But what are you going to do? Walk up to them and say, excuse me, let me show you how to do this right. You can't help until people choose to receive the help. You just can't do it. It doesn't matter how gifted you are. I mean, obviously, I'm a gifted tactician in the weight room. I can teach people. I understand biomechanics. I'm like Alex. I can see people. I can see their anatomy. I know what they have like issues like based on their length of muscle and all these different things. And I want to help, but I can't do it. And of course, I learned my lesson one time in my life. I tried to help, and that was a bad scene that transpired. And so I learned through osmosis that you can't do it. But then, I see fit bros and people talking in the community all the time about what you do. You do nothing. Because it doesn't matter if you're offering them help. If they're not willing to receive it, there's no help. You're wasting your breath.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. For those who need the help, they don't know they need it until they get hit across the face by life. Until something really bad happens, and then they realize, oh, shit, I got to fix this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard it well said that until somebody recognizes that the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change, they're not going to change.
Right, brother. 100% on that. My wife always has a saying. She says, most people are never concerned with their health until they don't have their health.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then it's a race to the bottom because as we know, we talked about on the last show, statistically 90% of people who are sitting on the operating table and the heart surgeon's about to put in a 4-stent, triple bypass or quadruple bypass. And they say, look, if you don't change your way, you're going to be back here 90% within 3 months, go right back to death. It's amazing. Literally amazing.
So we've answered all the other questions that were asked. Somebody asked about alcohol. Somebody asked about their meal when they break the fast. So we covered a lot. This is a good one.
It was a fantastic discussion,
guys. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, I enjoy coming on your podcast. I know that a lot of people are going to watch this. I really feel like we dispelled a lot of things about fasting. If there's one take-home message here and you are a bro and you are somebody like us and you already are living a quote-unquote somewhat optimized lifestyle, do not believe that fasting is going to cause catabolism. You're not going to lose muscle. It's a bunch of nonsense. You're not going to shrink. You're not going to your training is not going to suffer. You're just going to be leaner. At the end of the day, remember, being leaner is the first step to increasing lifespan. It's that simple. It's the number one thing that will increase the longevity of your existence in this incarnation. It's that simple. It really will.
Well, Jay, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for sending me a copy. I know Hunter would say the same thing. I really appreciate that, man. Seeing somebody who's willing to give value to others, expecting nothing in return. I do appreciate it. And you've given a ton of.
Well, first off, it's not nothing in return because you guys are giving me an amazing platform. And like, I love you guys. And I mean that, pure homo. I mean, honestly, I say that to people all the time who really do mean to me because like I told you guys, remember, I totally follow the rule of love. I don't follow the rule of law. People that know me, they know I don't play by the rules because the rule of law is created by attorneys and we know what attorneys are. So the rule of love is do unto others, live by the golden rule, and always serve other people with no attachment, which, as you guys know, I'm not always perfect in doing that, but I try to live my life. I have no attachment. I try to serve other people and I have no attachment. I've given away, no exaggeration, I've given away more than 5,000 books. And it's only helping me in life. It's only exposing me to more people like you guys. And then you expose me to Richard. I keep getting exposed to more and more people. And that's the gift of life. It's the infrastructure. It's the ecology of consciousness. We're all interconnected. And this is how we expand the reach. And obviously all the things that we talk about, guys, help people. We're not doing any disservices to humans. This is what we should be doing as human beings.
I completely agree. And I love seeing the ripple effect spread. Like I said, you talked to Richard Cooper, I want to see who comes from this one, when that ripple continues.
Exactly. And the same thing's going to happen to you guys. I mean, you guys are going to have people reach out to me. Hey, I want to go on your show. You know what I mean? Like I already know. And by the way, have Jim Brown on your show and talk training because you guys are going to be fucking mind blown. The guy is the guru on the planet when it comes to building muscle. There's no one like him. I don't know anybody. He can talk at any level. He's worked with so many lead top guys. Dante, from Dog Crap, the owner of True Nutrition. Like anybody out there in the hardcore community knows who Dante is. Rest Pause Training, Dog Crap Training, that's Dante's version. Jim was fucking working with Dante before he created it. So this guy is the man when it comes to weight training, and he will teach everybody who listens to you how to train with weights as an aging bodybuilder. Or it's not just a bodybuilder, just anybody who wants to build muscle. 80-year-old women can use Forge training.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So just reach out to him. He's TRT Jim on Twitter and just tell him, hey guys, Jay recommended you come on the show. But I mean, he just did a thing with like some old dude in Phoenix, Arizona, Old Guy Talks or something like that. And I was watching a show there and I was like, I mean, everybody should watch this, So, I mean, he would be a great guy to bring on your podcast.
Hell yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else. Hunter, you got anything?
Nah, we're good.
No.
Awesome, guys. Well, man, again, much love, gratitude. I truly appreciate the opportunity. I can't wait to push this out there. You guys have this on your channel, so you guys can do whatever you want with it. Guys, again, if you're watching this video and you want what I have, just ask jay@trtrevolution.com. Please follow me on Twitter. If you do read the books and you find value, let other people find them too. And the best way to do that is to leave 5-star reviews on Amazon. 2 to 3 sentences is perfect. How did it apply to your life? How did it help? And do that. And more people find this and, humanity benefits. It's that simple. I did want to say this, it's so important today for all of us to preach health, right? Like, what is more important than having a body that can propel you through life? I don't think anything is more important, right? You can't be the man. You can't espouse the masculine, the family alpha, masculine values that you guys are preaching if you do not have your health. What is more important? You can't do anything. You can't make money. You can't succeed. You can't be a good father. You can't be a good mother. You can't be any of this stuff unless you have your health. It's one vessel in this life. Take advantage of it, maximize it, reach out to people that can help you like us, and obviously spread the word, right? Because this is what we are. We are destroying the sick care model.
I love it. It's perfect in closing. That's exactly right. I mean, hit the nail on the head.
Awesome, man. All right, guys, let's stop the stream. Thank you guys for watching.